please welcome to the stage Databricks co-founder and CEO, Ghodsi.
Hey everyone, super excited to be here. Awesome. I actually thought we'd start with a little bit of a look back. Believe it or not, this picture is from 10 years ago here at the Moscone Center. We were so excited. We had over 3,000 people in the audience. We were like blown away. We were like, this is impossible. And back then, we were doing AI, but really our focus was on data engineering, making big data simple. That was the big focus. And we had just released Apache Spark a few years earlier. It was just a 1.0 release, and it was a big deal for us. And then 3 years later, this is a picture from 3 years ago. That's, again, Moscone Center, but now we actually had over 5,000 people. Okay, and we thought this is the maximum we're going to ever do. But now we have started focusing more and more on artificial intelligence. We actually changed the name of the conference from Spark Summit to Spark Plus AI Summit. And I'm sure none of you remember, but I actually went back and looked. I was on stage and I actually live coded, and there was no vibe coding, no assistance, so it's actually real code, with TensorFlow, generative AI, and I made a picture of Boris Johnson back then. And with that, our focus started expanding from data to both data and AI. And if you fast forward actually till today, it's amazing to see where this conference and this community has come. We now have actually over 22,000 people here at the Moscone Center. Yes, super exciting. It's actually a city-wide conference right now. We've taken over all of Moscone. It's basically 4 blocks. And it is the largest data and AI conference on the planet. $65,000 people worldwide are watching right now. And the stat that always blows me away is that there's 150 countries represented, okay? So this is not like a just US or American or West Coast-centric event. It's 150 countries, okay? We have a super awesome program, 700 sessions and trainings happening. Over 200 or 350 customer teams are presenting. So that's you guys are going to present the projects that you've been working on. It's going to be super exciting. And we also have 180 exhibitors. And the backbone of this conference over the years is open source. So the open source projects that were launched in this conference and that you all built now have over 2 billion downloads just on Apache Spark alone, over 1 billion downloads on Delta Lake. Iceberg, which we adopted last year, has over 360 million downloads. And then MLflow, which we use for all of our ML ops and all our experimentation for generative AI, has over 300 million downloads. And together, this is why our mission at Databricks is to democratize data and AI. We want to bring data and AI to as many people on the planet as possible. And I want to take a second to thank our sponsors who make this possible. Especially our legend sponsors, the hyperscalers, AWS, Google, Microsoft. Yes, thank you. And also the GSIs, Accenture and Deloitte, and all the other ones that are on this slide. And I also want to send a special thank you to all the other partners we have. We have the system integrators that help us actually build all this with services in your companies. We have the technology partners that are super essential. They augment the platform, we integrate with them, and they're the ones that actually make us do things that the platform alone cannot do. The built-on partners that build on top of Databricks, their solutions, and they sort of innovate and push the boundaries of what you can do. And then finally, the one I'm very excited about, and which is very important, are the data providers. Right? Those are the ones that you can get on the marketplace on Databricks. You can do delta sharing. You can share the data sets with other BUs and other organizations in the ecosystem. And together, with all of these partners, the most amazing things are our 15,000 customers. That's all of you who are in the room. That's the real impact. That's where the interesting things are happening. So thank you all. So we have a super exciting program. We have actually announcements both today and tomorrow. So, some people think, oh, the announcements are the first day. No, there's going to be new announcements tomorrow, too. So, if you're booking flights to go home tonight, extend them, please. Stay another day. Okay, we have very exciting things tomorrow. I thought I'd just start off by sharing a video on one of our customers and what they're doing that I think is really cool. So let's watch Joby here.
Joby has the mission of connecting people to places and the people that matter most to them. And we do that by developing a new class of all-electric aircraft. They can take off and land vertically like a helicopter, but they fly like an air taxi. We're generating gigabytes a minute of data on our airplane.
We want to push this data to our developers, engineers, so that they can gain insights from it very quickly. So Databricks is the platform that we have chosen to make this data democratization happen. Using Databricks has allowed us to quickly develop some of the AI sandbox. We leverage the endpoints, we leverage the model serving, we leverage the foundational models. So all these technologies that Databricks has provided have proven to be very key for us.
What we've tried to do is infuse the best of the way aviation does things with kind of the best of Silicon Valley.
Awesome. By the way, I see huge crowds in the back that are standing. There are seats at the tail end, and there are big videos back there as well if you want to go have a seat. It's easier to watch. OK, so you heard Joby and what they're doing. You're going to hear from hundreds of customers here at this event, what they're doing with data and AI. It's super impressive. But the reality on the ground is that it's actually really hard still to succeed with data and AI. Especially if you're in a company that has been around more than, say, 10 years or 15 years, chances are that your architectural diagram of your company's data and AI infrastructure looks something like what I have on this slide. In fact, this is probably a simplification. Okay? You at least have one of each of those services that I'm putting on this slide. You probably have it from some vendors, or maybe you're using some hyperscalers services for this. You probably have several data warehouses, maybe some on-prem, some in the cloud. You have a bunch of unstructured data that is stored in the lakes. You have real-time solutions that you've custom built for your organization. You have lots of ETL, data engineering, data movement that's happening that's typically bespoke. It's been built over the years, super hard to move. You don't want to break anything with that. And then, of course, all the organizations we work with, they have one of each of the BI tools that exist. Like, they have, literally, when I ask which BI tool do you use, they always say, well, we have every one of them, okay, dating back 20 years. And then, of course, recent years, there's been a lot of focus on data science, machine learning, and now generative AI. So you see all of this in your organization. And what that means is that this is creating a complexity in most companies. It's slowing down the organizations. The costs are super high. And it's creating a proprietary lock-in. So at Databricks, since 5-10 years back, we think this is the biggest problem. Actually, if I look back at our sort of history, we came from academia. We thought we were going to change the world overnight. And the biggest thing that we learned in the last 10-15 years is what we see on this slide. This is why everything moves slow in the organizations. So that's why we, about 5-10 years ago, set out to simplify this architecture and help organizations move faster. That's what we really wanted to do. We sort of brainstorming, how can we simplify this? What can we do? And what we realized over time is that the reason this is a really bad architectural sort of situation is that each of these things has its own data sitting in it, and that's what's really locking people in. There's data and there's metadata. You see that with that binary icon that I have. And then not only that, and this one I think we learned a little bit later, each of them have their own security model, their own access control, their own governance, because everybody's getting attacked. Privacy is super important to every organization out there. So each of these solutions have their own security model that you have to take into account. And that's what's making it really, really hard. So step number one was, how do we get all this data out of all these systems and just centralize them and have you own it yourself? So instead of you having to worry about the data in the different systems, it's sitting in cheap open lakes in an open format. So that was step number one. We actually wrote blogs about this, and we called it the Lake House. That was 5 years ago. And you can see here, this was sort of the reaction in the market when we put that out. They didn't believe in it. You can see, these are different vendors, what they're saying. Choose open wisely was one of the reactions, basically saying that it's a misguided application of open, and really our priorities and our customer obsession dictate against it. And I don't want to pick on a particular vendor. It was just the general kind of reception of this was that way by pretty much everyone, all the hyperscalers and so on. And then, as time went on, you can see now everybody loves open. Everybody's talking about it. You can see the quotes now from all the hyperscalers, from all the vendors that are out there. And actually, we can see now there's even books by the creators of data warehousing talking about the lakehouse and how that's the future. So that's super exciting. So now you have the open formats. It's kind of industry has accepted that this is the way to go forward. Though I would urge you, in your organization, despite a lot of the marketing, the majority of these vendors, the data that you have, even if they say they like open, your organization probably has locked the data. 99% of it is still probably in a proprietary format inside of these data warehouses. So I think we as a community have to push this. Let's really push for the open formats. And let's make sure that you own the data. Don't give it to Databricks. Don't give it to other vendors. Own it. Store it on open lakes like S3 on Amazon or like Azure Data Lake Storage, ADLS, on Microsoft Azure, or like GCS, Google Cloud Storage. Okay, store it there. Don't store it somewhere else. Okay, because then that leads again back to lock-in. All right, so that was step number one. But there was one more step that actually I think we didn't quite understand how important it was, and it was that of governance. So it's all these security models that each of these have. And I think we actually created the category 4 or 5 years ago, but we never really wrote about it. And I'm starting to believe that this is more and more important than ever. So we'll be talking a lot about this next few days. And tomorrow, make sure you catch Matej's keynote. He's going to be talking about this. So this is what we call unified governance. So what is unified governance? Unified governance isn't just let's do security on our data estate. It's two very key ideas. The first important idea is that you have to do governance on all of your data assets in the organization. Okay? And you should do that centrally in one place. Okay? If in your house, you wouldn't have different vendors do the security on different floors or different doors, right? That wouldn't make any sense. It would be very hard to coordinate and make it work. So you need to do it for all of the different data assets. Not just the structured data that you have, but also for all the unstructured data that you have. But not just for the data, but also for the AI models that you have. But not just for the AI models, also for all the dashboards that you have. Dashboards is the easiest way today in an organization to basically exfiltrate data. You get your hands on a dashboard, it has data sets, you can email them around, and then data evaporates out. So you really have to do governance on all of these, because the raw data becomes the structured data, goes into dashboards. We want to track the lineage of all of that. So that's step number one. That's idea number one. It has to be on all of the different things. And really, no governance solution today out there, outside of Unity Catalog, really does it for all of your data assets. So that's number one. Number two, you want to actually have unified capabilities on top of this data. So what I mean by that is it's not just about security. It's not just about access control. It's equally important to have a platform or a governance solution that really helps you with discovery, with collaboration. Because again and again, people are recomputing and coming up with the same data sets in the organization again and again and again. And then people bicker about why their numbers don't match. You want to track the lineage of all these different things. You want to understand the business semantics. Where do I find the authoritative data set for revenue for this product line? You want to be able to easily find that, and there should be no doubt which data set that is. That is what business semantics is, and we'll talk a lot about that at this conference on how we're taking the next step towards this. Cost controls. If you're going to have all this data and AI infrastructure, all these different services, you have to be able to do cost control. So there has to be a way where you can do that centrally. And then data quality monitoring. So these are super important. And unfortunately today, actually, despite all the talk about governance in the market, most focus is just on access control on structured data. Like if you look at efforts like Polaris, they're really just focused on this narrow slice of governance. So we're really hoping that you can push your organizations and we can together push towards unified governance. And at Databricks, unified governance, that's really the lake house, okay? We get, at the bottom, the open formats. And I'm super excited to share now that Databricks 100% supports, as formats, Delta Lake and Iceberg. You can use both formats. We have 100% support for both. So a year ago, we announced that we acquired a company called Tabular. The founders of that company are the original creators of Apache Iceberg. And we've been working this whole year on bringing these formats closer and closer and closer. So in Databricks, essentially, the differences are largely now negligible. And you should listen to Matej's talk tomorrow, because if you're actually using Unity Catalog as your catalog of record for your open formats, whether it's Delta or Iceberg, you will be able to actually read and write to these data sets from any system out there, okay? And we'll show in performance benchmarks that if you pick Unity Catalog as the catalog of record for your open data in Delta Lake and in Iceberg, you'll get significantly better performance in actually ingesting and processing that data. So this will be the most open approach you can take to the Lakehouse. And then on top of that, we provide Unity Catalog, which we open sourced last year. We're continuing that. We're going to continue open sourcing more and more. And most importantly, it also implements 2 of the standard open source interfaces for cataloging. The first one being Hive Metastore, and the second one being ICE REST Catalog. So these 2 interfaces, any system that wants to talk to an open catalog, you can just pretend this is a Hive Metastore or this is a ICE REST Catalog. And it's actually the most complete implementation of ICE REST Catalog in the industry today. So this is the Lakehouse. And we're super excited about this. This is what we've been focused on for the last 5 years. But what we're really excited about at Databricks is when you take this Lakehouse as your foundation, and then on top of that, you build intelligence into the platform. So what we mean by that is you take AI and you infuse it throughout the platform. That's what we call data intelligence. Okay? Data intelligence for us means really 2 things. One is we want to democratize access to data in your organization. In the past, you had to be someone who knows Python or SQL or maybe even Scala or Java to get value out of your data. We want to challenge that and change that so that it should be enough if you just speak English to your data or any other mother tongue or natural language that you have, and we should be able to get answers for you. So that's number 1 for data intelligence. Number 2 is we want to also democratize AI, which means we want to help you build your own AI for your companies so you can innovate AI that can reason and answer questions on your proprietary enterprise data or organizational data that's out there. Okay? So not just general intelligence and artificial general intelligence that can answer questions about anything out there, but that really, with high quality and adequate costs, can answer questions on your proprietary data. So on the left-hand side, democratizing data, the sort of English, the new programming language. We have 2 products that we have had in the market now for over a year. Genie, on the left-hand side, you can see, is a product that's now used by 81% of our customers. How that works is that you just ask your question, you create these data rooms, so you can take any data sets in Unity Catalog and create a data room, and you can share it with anyone in the organization, invite them to the data room, and they can just speak English to Genie. And what it does is it uses an ensemble of agents, comes up with a plan, and actually writes code for you, and then executes that. So you don't need to know any of that. You're just speaking English, and it's just interacting with you and giving you the results that you see on the left-hand side. So I think this is going to be the future. Eventually, this is going to be the way everyone does data science. But today, it does require preparation of the room. If you don't prepare the room, generative AI still has ways to go for it to be completely automated, right? So, there's, still can't do the full thing that data scientists do unless you've prepared the room. On the right-hand side is the assistant. So 98% of our customers are actually using the assistant. And what that is throughout Databricks, we've made the assistant understand every aspect of the platform. So if you're running into an error, you can click Diagnose Error. If you have a piece of code, it can explain it. And it understands your data in the organization. So that's the key thing about the assistant. Unlike other assistants out there that are great at programming, this one understands the data that you have in Databricks. So that's what we call data intelligence. I've been a power user of Databricks, no surprise, for the last 10, 15 years. And today, I just use this all the time. Like, this is my preferred way. Even though I used to prefer just coding myself, I use the assistant. I let it write the code for me. I review it. But it's completely transformed what I'm doing. And I'm much, much more productive. And I think we're seeing it with everyone that's using Databricks. OK, so that's just democratizing data. Let's look at AI. On the AI side, we announced last year Mosaic AI agent framework. You could build your own agents. You could do vector search. You could do model fine-tuning, guardrails, and so on. And in particular, we have now, if you look at the platform, classic ML is being used by 95% of our customers. And then we have generative AI that's picked up, and it's at 81% of our customer base. So super excited about this. Listen to Hanlin's talk today, where we're going to talk about basically the next generation of how we want you to develop your own data intelligence on your data. So one of the big announcements are going to be by Hanlin. Okay, so that's the data intelligence platform. That's what you're seeing in this picture. You have the lakehouse, and we've infused AI throughout it. We've simplified everything by removing a lot of the knobs using AI. And we think that this is going to be a big deal. Data intelligence is going to be something that every organization on the planet wants. And that's going to change and transform jobs throughout the planet. And I think we need to educate billions of people around the world on how to do data and AI themselves. That's why I'm super excited to announce today that we're actually launching what's called the free edition of Databricks. So what is the free edition of Databricks? Free edition of Databricks means you don't need to swipe any credit card. We're not going to ask you for any credit cards, we promise. And we're not going to ask you for a business email. You can use your Gmail or your Hotmail or, and just log in. And you can get a free slice of Databricks forever, okay? It's just there. But the limitation is you get a small slice, right? You can't come in and say, I want 1 million machines, because then we go bankrupt in an hour, right? But that's how it works. And together with this, we're also doing a $100 million investment in training and education and try to get Databricks Free Edition out to all the universities out there. So please help us. And we've taken all of our self-paced learning that we've had over the years, where you can learn to do various things, like you want to build a recommender, or you want to do inventory analysis, or you want to do forecasting, or you just want to build data pipelines that are robust. We're taking all that self-paced training, and we're open sourcing it and making that free as well. So really need your help. Please help us get the word out with this. If you have contacts at universities, or if you want people to learn, let's get this out there. This is the best way for anyone to learn and get started with data and AI. Okay, so super excited about this. Data democratization is super important. Data intelligence is super important. I want to welcome on stage Richard Masters, who's VP of Data and AI at Virgin Atlantic, to tell us about how he's democratizing data and AI at Virgin Atlantic. The stage is so big. This is the biggest stage we've had, so the timing is a little bit off. You know, it's a long walk to the stage here. Richard.
Hi.
Super excited to see you again.
Great to be here.
So I'm a little bit curious. So data is the foundation of all this stuff. I'd love to hear a little bit at Virgin Atlantic. How do you get the right data foundation so that you can do all these exciting things on top of your data?
Yeah, it really starts with my great team, really. We've got data product managers, data engineers, scientists that really build data assets and products on the Medallion architecture through bronze, silver, and gold, and then all managed by Unity for us. That makes it all visible for us. We can see it all there on the left side of the screen. You've got the flight, you've got customer, you've got commercial, and it all becomes that left join of the organization. But it makes it discoverable. It makes it shareable, so we can use Genie, we can use Assistant, we can use dashboards to really help our stakeholders out there in the different domains use the data, discover it, and trust it.
Awesome. So step number one, get the data in a good place, and you need a great team for that, which you have. That's awesome. So then once you have that in place, how do you deal with security governance? How important is that, first of all, and how do you do that on top of all of your data?
Yeah, it's super important. The way we think about governance is it's intrinsic to each product that we build. And whenever we have a product or a problem or an opportunity, we start with the requirement, we build that out, and that's got requirements around the insight that has to come out of it, or the integration that has to happen with enterprise applications. But through that is the security, the type of data underneath it, the observability of costs, management of that. It all helps us through Unity Catalog track that right through to the compute, right up to the output, the way it's going to be consumed. And we can obfuscate, we can mask out, we can really track that and give trust in that data, in that output through the governance of Unity Catalog.
Awesome. Okay, so we have the Medallion architecture, you have the data, your data teams fix it, and then on top of it, you have your security. You've done your masking in Unity Catalog so that the data is ready to be consumed. Are there any exciting use cases? Are you doing anything with data intelligence, AI? Tell us a little bit about the use cases.
There's so many use cases and exciting problems in the airline industry. We've got a lot of traditional ML problems around predictive maintenance, around dynamic pricing, understanding drivers of experience for our customers, all great stuff. But some really exciting stuff we're doing more recently with language models is around triage, is around summarization and categorization of health and safety messages. You know, super important for us as an airline to keep everyone safe. And we want to be able to, we want people to report, but we want the teams that are dealing with those messages to really focus on fixing things or anticipating things that might come up. So what we're managing to do with the language models is categorize, summarize, and prioritize those with the human in the loop. So this is where our visions really align at Virgin Atlantic and Databricks, where that human in the loop is critical to how we really engage with AI in the organization. And it's saving those teams, 1 to 2 hours per day, several hours per week. And we also have an engine that we can reuse around multiple other customer care use cases as well. So that triage component can really be reused around everything in the organization.
That's super impressive. So basically, we can make the airplane safer using AI because the whole triage process can be automated with a human in the loop. Whether that's a big thing for us at Databricks too. We'll be talking about it next few days, which is we think that for the AI, there needs to be a human in the loop because they do make errors, and we need to make sure that we're supervising that and making sure that's correct. So super excited about this. Thanks for sharing this with us. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks so much.
Round of applause for Richard.
Thank you.
Okay, so we know that AI is going to disrupt things. I mean, you heard triage management, lots and lots of different use cases. In every organization, you're seeing it. I'm sure it's the #1 thing that's being discussed at your company. And you can see some of the headlines here from the newspapers. I mean, there's like every day, it's like an endless number of these. Future of payroll, content management, CRM, IM, and so on and so forth. In fact, if you look at all the different categories of software that exists today, whether it's CRM, ERP, human capital management, contracting, and so on and so forth, it doesn't require that much imagination to see how AI is going to completely disrupt each one of these. AI is going to be infused into this. You're not going to have to manually go and enter things into the system. It's going to be able to capture all of that. It's going to be able to organize a lot of that, and it'll be able to give you the insights automatically. Just like the triage example, you'll know which customers you need to upsell. You'll know exactly what you need to do in the supply chain, where the bottlenecks are, where to place them, which employees you're going to promote, who needs a raise, and so on. All the software is going to be disrupted by AI. So the question is, what's the foundation needed for each of these categories to be able to do that disruption with data? Okay, so really at this conference, we've been talking a lot about data and AI, right? We said that's clearly two very important pillars of all of these applications. The future disruption will build on these. Every one of those categories, every one of those companies that maybe you will start or companies that you are in will build on that data and AI foundation. And at Databricks, when we usually say data, what we really meant was basically data analytics. Okay, that's what we kind of meant, right? Data warehousing and the management of that data for analytics purposes, and then we had the AI. But one thing that we haven't talked too much about at this conference in previous years, which underpins actually every piece of software that exists around the world, is the database. Okay, so I'm talking about the traditional transactional, database. The SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres kind of underpinning database. And we think that that's going to actually change significantly, and it's a really important area going forward with the infusion of AI and what's going to happen next. Okay. So if you look at these databases, they were really built for a different era. Technology in transactional databases hasn't actually changed that much in the last 40 years. In my previous life at Berkeley, we used to look at this paper called System R that was published in the 70s. This is a research paper by IBM. And 90% of all the ideas that you find in the database today are already in that research paper from then. And not much has happened since then. So why is that? Why are these databases looking the same as back then? Well, #1 is that because data is so sticky, and once you've picked a transactional database and you put your data in it, it's just nearly impossible for you to move off of it or move it to a new thing. So there's just this massive lock-in on all traditional transactional databases. And once you've locked yourself into that, those vendors also don't need to really innovate. They don't need to challenge status quo because you can't go anywhere with it, okay? So it's just such a sticky thing. Much more so than anything else, much more than data warehousing, much more than the kind of stuff that Databricks has been doing for the past decade. Number two, they're very expensive because of that lock-in. Once they have your data there, they can raise the price. And also the architecture, the way it was built in the 80s and 90s, these are big black boxes kind of, maybe they're virtualized in the cloud, but you still clunky big instances that you buy. Takes a long time to spin them up, and they're not really elastic in their foundation. And finally, they're really built for that on-prem era, right? They don't have cloud, they don't have AI in mind. They were built pre-AI, okay? So what we're really excited about at Databricks, and this is another one of our big announcements, is that we think that there's going to be almost a new architecture for these databases going forward, almost like a new category. We call this the Lakebase. And might sound familiar. It's you split the database into a base and a lake layer. And you take the data that's sitting in these traditional transactional databases, and you store it in lakes, okay, in cheap data lakes, in an open format. Okay? So basically disrupt that transactional database. You should own that data. It should be on the lake in your account. And then on top of it, you do the transaction processing in the base layer on top, okay? So that's what we're super excited about. A simple idea, but kind of hard to pull off. And we think this is going to be the future of all databases. So let me tell you a little bit about the Lakebase. So number one, we think it should be built on open source, right? And we think that Postgres essentially has one as that lingua franca for open source databases. If you look at its traction, it's absolutely massive. And the best thing about Postgres is the extensions that the community have built over the years. So it's like a massive ecosystem of extensions that are available that lets you do anything from, if you want to do vector processing or key value store or whatever you want to do, it's part of Postgres open source extensions. That's number one. Number two, you should really properly separate compute and storage in that database layer in Postgres. And this is really hard to do because unlike data warehousing or the lakehouse, you want this to be really low latency, okay? So just doing every query and going to the lake would be too slow if you do it naively. So there's been previous attempts at doing this, but they don't really properly separate it out. You want high QPS, queries per second, millions, and you want production SLAs because this is going to be underpinning your most important, precious AI applications in the future, okay? And then finally, it should really be built for the AI era, okay? It should be able to launch very quickly because we're going to see a lot of agents launching these. And we want to be able to make sure that if they launch hundreds or thousands of these databases, you should only pay for what you're using. Okay? This should be able to scale to zero, and most of the time, you're just paying for cheap data lake storage. So that's what we think is the Lakebase. We are super excited about this. To talk more about this and what we've been doing at Databricks for the last 2 years to work on the Lakebase, I want to welcome my co-founder, Reynold, to the stage.
Thank you, Ali. We're actually supposed to shake hands, but given you walked all the way there, and I'm supposed to come here, I think it will be a little bit difficult. So virtual handshake. As Ali said, Databricks in the last decade has mostly been focusing on the analytics side of data infrastructure. And if you look at analytics systems today, what you use on Databricks, or even on other vendors, they look remarkably different from what they were in the 90s. There's a lot of foundational technology that's been invented. Columnar storage, vectorized processing have dramatically speed up analytical workloads. Streaming was invented about maybe over a decade ago, actually can make data a lot fresher. And of course, in 2020, 5 years ago, we published the Lakehouse blog and pioneered new architecture, which decouples storage and compute, and more importantly, based on open formats. And that have enabled a lot of new workloads, dramatically lowered the TCO for all the analytical systems. Now, OLTP databases, however, are kind of stuck in the past. What do we mean by that? If you look at OLTP databases running today, whether it's commercial, so proprietary systems like Oracle or open source databases like MySQL, Postgres, they look more or less the same as they were in the 90s. Yes, we've added a lot of features. They have gotten faster. We've looked at the components and the techniques and foundational ideas. They're more or less the same. Ali even sort of referred it all the way to the 70s of the System R papers. And databases are viewed as this heavyweight infrastructure, requires a lot of manual intervention and maintenance, and it's quite clunky. First, databases are very slow, so the provision, and it's sort of difficult to scale. If your workloads are fairly dynamic, it's often a nightmare to actually deal with that in the database side. And because of that, databases are fairly disconnected from modern-day developer workflows, which we'll zoom into it a little bit. And it's also very siloed from analytics and AI. Like, it's actually not unusual these days. You want to combine analytics and AI with your transactional database workloads, but it's very difficult to do. So what did I mean by databases that disconnected from modern-day developer workflows? Well, imagine you're a software engineer, and you're trying to add a new feature to a code base. The very first thing you'll likely do is the following command, git checkout-b, maybe click in the UI. But what it does, it creates a new branch of your code base. And you make changes to this new code branch, adding new feature, maybe fixing a bug, you'll be testing against it. But all the changes you do are isolated to this specific branch. And creating a new branch is an instant operation. It's very, very fast. You don't have to think twice about it. You just do it. Right? What's the equivalent for databases? You want to clone your production databases, it might take days. You put one up, you almost never shut it down. Some things like this simply doesn't exist. Like, wouldn't it be nice if you can branch off a database, just like you would do with code? Now, let's say you get past all that development hassle and you manage to build a pretty successful app, which many of you have. And now the app has taken off. You want to introduce some analytics capabilities or AI capabilities to the app. So you have your app development team now start talking to your data infrastructure teams. They're managing the lakehouse. You say, hey, how do I actually get the data from one side to another? Now you have to figure out how do you manage two disparate systems. You have to understand the IAM role differences. How do you set up secure networking? How do you create ETL pipelines and load data from one to another? You learn fancy terms like change data capture, STD type 1, STD type 2, which I, up until this day, still don't understand what they are. It just seemed awfully complicated. So in the past couple of years at Databricks, we've been working on how to tackle this problem and actually eliminate all of the challenges. And the result of that is Lakebase. Right? Lakebase has the following attributes. First and foremost, it's based on open source Postgres. And second, it built on a novel decoupled storage from compute architecture that actually enables the modern day developer workflow. And by building on top of Databricks infrastructure, it comes with what you would expect, actually amazing lakehouse integration as well as all the enterprise readiness features. Now, let's talk about them one-on-one, so one each after each. So first and foremost, Lakebase is building on open source standards, which is open source Postgres. And in the last few years, open source Postgres has steady on the rise. And if you look at the latest Stack Overflow survey of the most popular databases, Postgres actually leads by a wide margin. And this is because its robust ecosystem of tools, libraries, and extensions, and all of this just work out of the box on the Lakebase. And Lakebase can guarantee you single-digit millisecond latency at scale. The second most important part to Lakebase is building on a new novel separation of storage from compute architecture. And it actually has 3 layers to this architecture. At the very bottom, we're using data lakes, or object stores, to store the actual physical data. And object stores are the cheapest storage medium you can find. They're extremely reliable at scale. Now, one of the challenges that Ali actually referred to is that object stores were not exactly designed for the type of workloads that OLTP databases need. 100 millisecond query is plenty fast in the lakehouse for analytics, but 100 milliseconds is actually unacceptable for OLTP workloads. We need single-digit millisecond latency. So the way we've solved that is by introducing a middle layer storage that's actually only have soft state, and it acts as a write-through cache for all the data to the object stores. And for some of you that are database nerds, it also creates a new way to very quickly persist the write-ahead log, or what we typically call as WAL, in the database. And on top of the storage layer, we have the ephemeral compute nodes, which are Postgres instances, that actually reads and writes to the underlying storage layer. one of the things that's very important for me to point out is very similar to lake houses. The actual data that's stored in the object stores, the data lakes, are open source formats. They are not some proprietary format we invented to actually improve performance or to lock you in. They are just vanilla Postgres pages. And this opens up a whole new sort of paradigm of opportunities. And there's actually a lot of past attempts at this problem. This is not the first time I think sort of the industry have tried to create separation of storage from compute architecture for OLTP databases. Some commercial systems, especially from hyperscalers, have done that. But they were typically actually built on yet another proprietary storage system. They are way more expensive and also don't use open source formats, which means they can manage to lock you in even more so. The way we crack the code here is actually based on, some of you might recognize the architectural diagram, say, hey, didn't Databricks actually acquire this company called Neon just last month? And you're already talking to us about it. No, we did acquire Neon. We announced acquisition last month. We actually only closed the acquisition last week. But one of the interesting things that's not widely known is we actually invested in Neon, the company, many, many years ago, and been working with Neon team as a technology partner on this separation of storage from compute architecture. And everything on Lakebase is actually building on this collaboration. Right? And building on top of this new novel architecture, we managed to accomplish a few fairly interesting things. The first is serverless. And what do we mean by serverless? Well, earlier we said databases are this heavyweight infrastructure that requires a lot of manual maintenance and intervention. Serverless here means database should become lightweight. What does it mean that it's lightweight? Well, Lakebase come in two flavors. The first flavor is a provision throughput flavor that it suits you. You actually specify exactly how big you want it to be. If you know how to size your world, that's the perfect sort of, solution for you. But for most people, the auto-scaling flavor will be far more interesting. In the auto-scaling flavor, you don't have to worry about how big a database you should be picking. And because the databases are actually just ephemeral instances, you could only launch it when you need to. It takes less than a second to launch a brand new database. And if you're sort of low scale, you could either vertically scale it, which the system will do it for you, or you could choose to create replicas that also comes up in less than a second. And if your load goes down, and you actually no longer have need, for example, say for a very American-centric company, past 5 p.m., maybe you have no loads, you can actually automatically shut it down very quickly. All of those just happens in less than a second. Right? And the best part is you only pay for when the duration you actually need the compute. The second thing we built was branching. We talked about earlier how difficult it is to branch off a database and to apply modern development software practices to actual databases. It's very easy to do it with code, but it's very difficult to do with databases. The separation of storage from compute architecture also has a copy on write capability built in that we can instantly branch off a database. It takes less than a second to create a whole clone of the database. And that includes both the data and the schema of the database. And because of the copy on write capability, you don't actually have to pay for extra storage unless you start making changes. And only the changes themselves will incur extra charge. Because under the hood, they all share the same storage. So something pretty magical would actually happen when you combine the branching capabilities and the serverless capabilities into one. It would completely change the way you think about database development. Every time you do git checkout -b, you should automatically actually branch off a database with that new branch of code. You should have them perfectly in sync, making schema changes. If you actually don't like your new code branch and whatever changes they make to the database, it's just kill both the code branch and the database. You pay next to nothing, just like how you're paying for your code repository. Right? And this is extra important in the age of agentic coding and AI. With AI, like one way to think about AI agents is you're getting at very low cost and armies of thousands, or maybe even in the extreme case, millions of AI agents. And the AI agents are acting as their own individual engineers. They're doing experiments on your code base, maybe adding new features. You might even have multiple AI agents adding new features, adding the same feature, and you have judges to determine which feature is the best implemented. And it's now every AI agent can actually get their own code branch, but also their own databases at virtually no cost for experimentation. The separation of storage and compute, especially by leveraging actually open source formats underlying storage layer, also makes it super easy to synchronize data at very high throughput from one object store to another object store. So from one data lake to another data lake, from Lakehouse to Lakebase. And many of you, if you're an existing Databricks customer, given what we're doing, you probably actually expect this out of the box. You can publish any tables in the Lakehouse into Lakebase for real-time serving to get your 10 millisecond latency. And you can also do the reverse. You can very easily get the data from Lakebase directly into the Lakehouse, managed by UC, Unity Catalog, with a few clicks. And of course, by building on top of Databricks infrastructure, Lakebases are sort of enterprise-ready. It comes with all the bells and whistles you expect, from security to compliance to governance. So, given Lakebase, what can you do differently? Well, first, if you're trying to build a new app and you need a relational database, give Lakebase a try. If you want to serve data, you have data today, whether it's machine learning, feature stores, or whether it's simple data pipelines you build, you want to serve that data, give Lakebase a try. And if you have ETL pipelines, complex ETL pipelines that ingest data from a relational database into Databricks, which I know almost every customer does, give Lakebase a try. It'll dramatically simplify your architecture. So with that, I would like to invite Holly Smith onto stage to actually give you a demo to visualize what it looks about. And I think Holly's actually going to come up on that side. So you have slowly shifting the stage.
Hello. I've been given the job to manage inventory levels for a drinks company, making any last-minute adjustments to stock, but also to share data between analytics teams. This job is tricky at crunch time, but fortunately, I have some new tools from Databricks to help me. And today, I'll be sharing how Lakebase powers Databricks apps, works at scale, and can use data from Delta tables, all in real time, all in one platform. So I'm going to switch to my demo, and in front of me, I have a Databricks app that's bringing together both operational and analytical data. Whenever I'm changing these filters, these are live queries. Nothing is cached in the app. I can see here orders that I need to review, but I am not going to do that. Instead, I am getting some intense requests to place some orders for Cherry Burst for 90 units. I'm going to select my store, click through the app, and go. This app will go and update Postgres in the back end where the orders table sits. Now, I'm going to double check that this has gone through correctly, and I'm switching to the brand new Postgres SQL editor natively integrated to the Databricks platform. And I can tell it's Postgres because I've got this icon on the top right here. And when I select my compute, it's got this Postgres tag next to it. I'm also not going to do this on production. So I am going to use dev, which is an isolated test branch. And if I look at the left, I can see some neon details. I'm also going to check the settings of the version. And I can see that, yes, this is Postgres version 16.6. And to query the data, I would just query it like I would any other table. And I can see here that when I run this, that, yes, my order has gone through. But that's just one record, and that's not very impressive. So earlier today, I set up a little program to simulate lots of users to run in the background. I'm going to switch to the native performance monitoring in Databricks. I'm going to head to this metrics tab here, and I can see how this has ramped up to thousands of transactions a second and tens of thousands of rows per second, and I've got all sorts of interesting operation types happening here. One thing this doesn't have is our app latency as it scales. And fortunately, I bought my little program so that it can measure latency. So I'm just going to run a simulation and see how well we're doing. And, oh, I can see my performance is almost 19,000 queries a second, with the median at 4.56 milliseconds and the 95th percentile at 5.6 milliseconds. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Thank you. Lakebase can also access data in Delta, and I can combine them together for snappier responses in the UI. So I head to the table in Unity Catalog. I can create a synced table. I go ahead and I can name the table. I select which instance I want to use. I want to use production. I can also choose the database as well, and then the primary key. Now, I can either run this as a one-off snapshot triggered at a certain interval, or have it continuously updating. And I can either group this with other updating items in a pipeline, or I can have it as a standalone. Now that that's set up, when I go to it in Unity Catalog from the database view, I can see here that I've got this little synced icon next to my table. And so now, when I head back to my app, oh, here it is, and I head to my Insights tab, I've got this Insights tab, and that is including data from a Delta table for my forecast. And of course, I can sync all of my orders, data back to the Lakehouse for historical analysis and the other way around too. So in this demo, we've shown how Databricks is bringing together both operational and analytical data closer together. And I hope I've shown you how powerful this is when combined with other Databricks features like apps, Delta, and Unity Catalog. And it's inspired you to give it a go on your next project. And as for me, I don't think I like being an inventory manager, and I probably should have made this an agent. Back to you, Reynold.
Thank you, Holly. And only virtual handshake. So at Data and AI Summit and other conferences, we announce products of various stages of maturity. Where is Lakebase? We just spent so much time talking to you about it. So in the last year, we actually been private previewing Lakebase with hundreds of customers, and many of some of their logos actually showing on the stage here, across a very variety of industries. Many of them actually running Lakebase in production. And we're also very happy to have the following launch partners joining us to announce Lakebase itself. And this includes catalog vendors, BI vendors, agentic coding platforms, and consulting services. But the best part is that Lakebase is available today. All right. Woo. So not something coming next year, but today. Starting today, in all of your Databricks workspaces, depending on which region you are, you can either explicit opt-in, or it's already on out of the box for you. It includes the full-blown, fully managed Postgres instance, all the Lakehouse integrations, multi-cloud support, HADR. All right? And there's a lot more new features coming in the coming months. So just to summarize, Lakebase offers a fully managed Postgres instance. It comes with a new novel separation of storage from compute architecture, which enables the modern-day developer experience, both for humans and for AI agents. And more importantly than the Lakebase product announcement, we actually feel like this is how database should be built in the future. And our prediction is every other database, every other transactional OLTP database will evolve towards this architecture in the coming years. Now, we can't not talk about Lakebase without talking about Neon acquisition, because that's what power the innovations behind Lakebase. So with that, I would actually like to invite the CEO of Neon, Nikita, onto stage to talk about to us. Nice shirt.
Thank you, thank you.
So Nikita, you started Neon together with Stas and Heki about 4 years ago. And at the time, Neon became sort of the leading serverless Postgres company. But at the time, there's a lot of other Postgres companies, and all the hyperscalers have Postgres. What problem were you trying to solve?
So we actually focused on developer experience of all the things. The biggest Neon innovation is separation of storage and compute, which does allow us to store data in an open format inside of the cheapest medium, cloud object stores and Lakehouse. Now, what does it have to do with developer experience? Well, actually a lot. So the one thing that it does allow you to do is to make a serverless system. And without separation of storage and compute, it's actually kind of impossible to make a system serverless, especially a system that is kind of a traditional database like Postgres. So now, you can think about a database as just being a URL, right? And this URL is something your application interfaces with, and then according to the application, it will increase the size or decrease the size or scale all the way to 0 if you stop driving that system, which is very convenient. You don't have to think about sizing, and you only pay for what you use. The other thing that we quickly realized when we kind of put a magnifying glass over the developer experience is that developers like to integrate their systems in their developer workflow. And that's where the idea of branching came in. And again, it's only possible to deliver on branching when you branch both schema and data if you separate storage and compute. So now...
do it instantly, at least.
Yeah, and to do it instantly as well, right? We use copy and write for this. Now, copy and write is not a new idea, but package it in a way that developers can self-serve consume was a big innovation from Neon.
Makes sense. One other thing that was actually very surprising to me, at least, is we noticed throughout the process, hey, 80% of the databases created on neon.com were created by AI agents, not humans. So AI agents actually create 4 times more databases, and here's sort of a chart, and it started at 30%. What's going on there? Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, that's right. So last year, we had 30%, now we're 80%. I actually want to make a kind of bold prediction. In a couple of years, I think 99% of all the databases on the platform will be created by AI agents. I think we're at the dawn of the AI software revolution, and every engineer is becoming an AI engineer. What this means is if it's a human, then the human is levered by these modern tools such as Cursor, or Windsurf, or Microsoft Copilot. And, but also, we're now starting to have fully autonomous AI software agents, agents that generate software. Specifically, partners of Databricks, Replit and Lovable that are here, part of our launch partners here, they just generate apps from a prompt. And since every application needs a database, Neon is a perfect solution for that. Because again, database is just a URL, database has branching, and AI kind of makes mistakes. So creating those isolated environments in a safe and secure way is a big deal for those AI systems.
Which are really hard to do with traditional databases.
Impossible.
Last question. What are you most excited about now that Neon's part of Databricks? How do you see the techs coming together, even though they kind of were coming together already?
Right. Well, I'm excited to build the best OLTP system in the world that is fully integrated with the data and AI platform. So I think the analytical and OLTP systems, they have been separate for a very, very long time. And there are all these use cases that are pure analytical, pure transactionals, but then there's also everything in between. So I'm excited to not only build the most scalable and efficient OLTP system in the world, but also deliver all the use cases for all of you that span the whole range between analytics and OLTP.
All based on open source.
All based on open source.
All right, thank you, Nikita. And Ali, we're going to pass back to you.
Awesome. Super excited about this. And very, very excited to have Nikita and the team as part of Databricks. Over 100 of Postgres folks that are joining us. So we really want to embrace the Postgres community as part of this conference. And we're looking forward to the innovations that are going to come on Lakabases, both at Databricks, but also in the community at large. OK, so one thing that I'm really excited about, but I forgot my clicker. So in the back, you guys have to click for me. OK, when I say click, that's what that means. All right, so we got, remember the 3 kind of pillars of all of future AI applications. We have the data analytics, we have the AI, and then we have the database. So we're kind of on the database leg here. And so at Databricks, we discussed how are we going to help people democratize access to the data they have in Databricks. Is there a way in which we can help them authenticate and get the access controls and as easily as possible get access to that data directly? So, a couple of years ago, there was a discussion that we wanted to really democratize things in Databricks with what we called Databricks apps, OK? And we had a big discussion internally, and there's always debates at Databricks, how should we prioritize things? And I was kind of a skeptic. I said, it takes a long time. Writing these apps is going to take a very, very long time. How much resources are we going to put on this? And we actually made a bet internally. And I said that, look, I think that in the first year, maybe we'll have some 100 of organizations using this. Click. And I was totally wrong. So we launched this in November 2024, so Databricks Apps, and we have over 2,500 customers actually building their own applications, vibe coding them, building them. And the beauty of it is that it just integrates directly with Databricks. So to find out a little bit more, why I was wrong and what Databricks Apps is about, I'm super excited to welcome on stage Justin Debrabant from Databricks to tell us about Databricks Apps. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Ali. Wow, it is good to be here. And let's see if we can convince all of you why apps is the way to democratize data and AI in your organizations. You can see that Ali's a believer, and he was a bit of a skeptic. He's not lying, so let's get into it. So as Ali said, we have the foundation for modern data intelligence applications. We've always had the analytics. That's been the foundation of Databricks from day one. We layered that with AI, and now through Lakebase, we have the database as well. We have the foundation, and now it's about what goes on top. So great. Everybody's out there has probably done some sort of vibe coding. It's easy to build a front-end application now. I can just vibe code up my app and deploy it. Well, the hardest part is actually connecting these apps to the data and AI in a secure and governed way. So it's the productionalizing of these applications next to your data and AI that is really challenging. And anybody who's done this knows there's some aspect of all of these that you have to do. You have to integrate with your auth and SSO. You have to define governance and access controls, manage the infrastructure, containers, integrate into your VPC, so all the networking stack you need to deal with, deploy a database to manage state or connect operational data, integrate with observability tools, configure audit and access logs. Everything that goes into productionalizing is actually the really, really difficult part. And that's why we are super excited to announce the general availability of Databricks Apps. Thank you. Thank you. Databricks Apps makes it easy to build secure and governed data intelligence applications deployed directly in Databricks and governed through Unity Catalog. And really, this is about a broader architectural shift of moving the app to the data and AI versus moving the data and AI to the app. This is really, really critically important, and we think this is the architecture of the future. So let's get into it. Why Databricks Apps? One, it's powered by the Databricks Data Intelligence Platform. Everything in Databricks becomes a building block that can power these data intelligence applications. You have out-of-the-box auth and SSO, so you can bring your own Databricks identity to the app and not need to re-authenticate and reintegrate. And as of today, we're announcing a one-click integration with Lakebase, so you can easily deploy your data intelligence app with a database backend. You can use that for app state, you can use that for agent state, you can use that for operational data. It's easy to deploy and integrate. Secure and governed. Apps is hosted in Databricks managed containers and infrastructure. You don't need to spin up and manage your own stack. Everything is governed through Unity Catalog. So you can bring your own permissions to the application and access your data as you would as an individual user, even down to the individual resource level. And finally, we have out-of-the-box auth and access logs for enterprise auditability. Open ecosystem. This is something that Databricks talks about a lot. We believe in openness. We believe in open source. We believe in open frameworks. We took that same philosophy with Databricks Apps. We supported out of the gate all the popular Python frameworks: Streamlit, Gradio, Dash, Shiny, Fast API, Flask, whatever you wanted to build in, we support that. And as of today, we now are announcing support for JavaScript as well through Node and React. So it's not, yes, a lot of JavaScript developers, I love it. So now you can choose your own framework, you can choose your own language, you can build the app wherever you want to build it, and then deploy it as a Databricks app. And in addition, we support 20+ pre-installed open source packages, so you have everything you need to build the best data intelligence app already deployed. And as Ali said, the adoption and the customer feedback has been incredible. Since our launch in November, we've had over 20,000 apps created across over 2,500 customers. And that actually makes Databricks Apps the fastest growing public preview product ever at Databricks. Thank you. And I know a lot of the customers that have been part of this journey with us are in this room. So thank you. We're just getting started. And let's take a look at a couple of them now. Bridgestone. Bridgestone uses Databricks App to operationalize foundation models across their organization. They do prompt caching, persisting history, token consumption. They operationalize the use of LLMs within their organization using a Databricks app. And this app is actually used by hundreds of internal users weekly at Bridgestone. So it's not just a simple personal app. This is organization-wide, these apps are being leveraged. Adipar. Adipar has streamlined ingestion through a custom interface to empower non-technical users, non-data science, non-data engineers to configure data pipelines and run ingestion. This is actually a really important pattern that we're seeing because it's allowing data science and data engineering teams to build instead of support. I'm sure many of you in this room spend a lot of your time day to day in ops, one-off things. Run this query, run some job, run some model. It's cumbersome, it's burdensome. Apps allows you to create custom interfaces to make that self-service so you can get back to building and innovating and not just being a support team. Takeda, the global pharmaceutical company, uses Databricks apps to process investigation summaries. They take this unstructured data, they extract key information from that, put it in a structured format that's more easily consumable across the organization, and generate summaries. Again, they're operationalizing traditional ML and foundation models through a Databricks app. So that's super exciting. Actually, my favorite part about my job is I get to get on calls with all these customers, and I just get to see a bunch of cool demos of apps. So this is just really scratching the surface on what our customers are building. And it's been truly inspirational for me to see everything that's going on. But what about app development? Right? We've talked about apps makes it easy to deploy and manage these production apps. But what about the actual development of the app? And development is changing. As Nikita suggested, there's a lot going on in the market, whether it's AnySphere and Cursor raising a ton of money, $10 billion company after only a couple years. OpenAI is in talks to acquire Windsurf. Replit is blowing up in terms of usage and valuation. Retool just announced their own AI app building product. There's a tremendous amount, and this is just in the last couple weeks. I didn't have to go back to last year's Data and AI Summit. So there's a tremendous amount of momentum in the market around development of apps and how that's changing with AI. And vibe coding is great. I do it in my spare time. It's really fun. But developing production data intelligence apps requires more. It needs to be aware of your data, aware of your models, aware of the products and services that ultimately you're going to integrate into. Really, you need to integrate this deeper into your data intelligence stack for it to be valuable. And that's why we're excited to announce our App Builder ecosystem. The App Builder ecosystem is the modern development stack for data intelligence applications. Through Databricks and our partners, the idea here is that we're supporting any interface and any framework, whether it be AI-based coding, visual editing, or going directly to the code. You can develop alongside your data and AI with awareness of the products and services that you're ultimately integrating into, and then you can seamlessly deploy that as a Databricks app. We're super excited about these partnerships, and we're just getting started. And with that, I start the long walk over here. So for this demo, we're going to try to bring it all together. We're going to show the development of an app with one of our app development partners, Superblocks. So we're going to generate that app with AI. We're going to infuse that app with data intelligence from the Databricks platform. And then we're going to deploy that app seamlessly as a Databricks app. And once I catch my breath over here, we can start the demo. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this prompt in to generate a supply chain dashboard for Brickhouse brands. We're telling it which Databricks products and services to integrate into, and it's going to generate the framework of our application, the interface, as well as the APIs into Databricks. And here we are. So what we can see is now we have our Brickhouse brands admin dashboard. We're going to go from top to bottom and inspect each of these components to see the underlying Databricks service it's integrated with. Starting at the top here, we have the aggregate time-based information for SLA violations, active SKUs. We can see that this is an aggregate query from DB-SQL. Going out here, we can see the same data visualized as an embedded AI BI dashboard, so we can see the time-based visualization. And down here, we can see the individual SKU level logistics. So let's actually click into one of these. And we can see now the shipment history for this SKU. This is real-time data being pulled from Lakebase. And up top, we can see the priority scores, predicted delays, delivery risk. These are actually queries to a model served through model serving, prepared through MLflow. And so what we're doing here, you can see the Lakebase query and the model serving query. We're able to integrate the real-time data with predictive insights through modeling and AI. We can edit this app directly, so we can go up here and edit the text. Again, visual editing is an important aspect of this. We can drag and drop these components. We can resize things. The point is, you can go back and forth between AI, visual, and code super seamlessly. And then, if we need to, we can actually go directly down to the React code. So we can change the format of the icons that we had in the map component here, save that, and then we see those changes propagated to the map. Jumping up here, we can now, let's flag this SKU as critical. And so what this is going to do, it's going to add this to our shipment priority queue. If we click into this component, we can see that this is actually DB-SQL with an AI query. And this AI query is using a foundation model to query unstructured shipment data and summarize the reasons this shipment is at risk. So we're processing unstructured data using this foundation model. And finally, no demo would be complete without Genie. So we go back up here into this chat component, and we can see a chat interface that is powered by Genie. So now we can ask questions of our data through natural language. And you can see this is pulling from the Genie Conversation APIs. All right, the app looks good. Now we're going to deploy it on Databricks. So we're going to seamlessly deploy this as a Databricks app. And what this is going to do is it's going to take us over to the Databricks workspace. And now we can see a running version of our Databricks app. Here we can see the Databricks app URL, where this app has been provisioned. We can see the app resources that were attached to this app, so the SQL warehouse, the serving endpoint, et cetera. We can actually edit these permissions. So if we go up here, we can see which resources have been added to the app. So this is essentially adding the necessary production resources now that we're deploying this app to production in this workspace. Those look good. The next step here would be sharing this app with the appropriate teams. So here we have this app pre-configured to share to my logistics team. So now they can access this app directly with auth managed completely through Databricks. This all looks good. Now we can deploy this app. We're pushing the new configuration and code to the container, and we'll get a new URL with the production-ready Databricks app. We can click on this, and here we now have our app running completely in production as a Databricks app. All right. With that, a couple key takeaways. So data intelligence apps really helps accelerate democratization of data and AI within your organization. No longer is this stuck behind technical interfaces and requires knowledge of coding or Python or SQL. Anybody can tap into data and AI through applications. Databricks makes it easy to deploy secure and governed production applications. And Databricks Apps is ready and GA today and used across thousands of customers. I would encourage you to go use it. Thanks, everybody. Back to you, Ali.
Awesome. We're very excited about Databricks Apps. Best way to connect to the data that you already have in Databricks, and it's a great way to democratize access inside of your organization, right? You don't need to give people access to all of Databricks. It's just, you give them just the app, and then you have the authentication, you have the lineage, and all of the integrations just work out of the box. Okay, so as I mentioned, there are 3 pillars to the future of all data intelligence applications that people will build. We've been a lot focused on the database layer so far, what we call the Lakebase, and then we talked about how you can actually build your own apps on top of that, because now you have your Postgres instance. So now we're going to shift gears to AI for the rest of the day during the keynotes. And as part of that, I want to welcome and talk to Dario Amodei, who's actually joining in from a friend's wedding. So super excited to have him on. I hope the video link works. Dario?
Thanks for having me, Ali.
So this is awesome. We were talking about doing this conference, and you were going to come here, and then and then there was a wedding. I hope your friend doesn't know that you're doing this right now. He'll be very upset, I'm sure. So super excited about the partnership. You told me that you've seen this kind of hockey stick adoption of Anthropic whenever you've launched it, and he said we're going to see the same. And I was a little bit skeptical. I was like, I'm not sure. It's actually, is it really going to take off like that? And again, you're 100% right. I was wrong again, and it's amazing to see. So I'm curious, from all the use cases that we're seeing with enterprises using Anthropic together with Databricks, which ones are exciting to you, and which ones kind of have maybe surprised you?
Yeah, so maybe one that stands out to me is Block, the company formerly known as Square. Block made an internal AI coding agent that they call Goose. And as often happens with when people use our models for coding, this is a pattern we've seen. At first people directly use the model for coding, and it received a lot of adoption there, something like 75% of Block's engineers. But gradually it became a general tool for coordinating lots of different types of tool use, lots of different data sources. Models that write code can write code for the user, but they can also write code in order to use tools and take actions. And so Block's usage really expanded beyond the narrow coding use cases to many things that the models can do with coding. And it's my understanding that Goose has become incredibly popular within Block, and they feel that it's greatly increasing their productivity. I think something like 40% of not just their engineers, but of all the employees at the company are now using it. So that's really a success story. We're excited to get the productivity gains and for it to continue to grow. And I think it's also an example of something you've been talking about for this whole summit, which is the AI models are great alone, but the best thing is when you can combine the AI models with the data sources, with various tools and affordances, where you can use the AI model as a brain that connects to various types of static information that you have in various dynamic frameworks. So I think that kind of illustrates the thesis of our collaboration.
That's awesome. Yeah, super excited about Goose, actually. I used it personally. Your models are really good at coding, I have to say, and all of Databricks engineering, actually. So we have over 2,000 people that now leverage Goose. It's one of our go-to platforms for agentic coding. So I'm curious, Darius, you talked a lot about virtual collaborators are going to become common, and we're going to have these agents working side by side us, maybe doing multi-hour work. I'm very curious, that world, what will it look like? And also, how do we make sure that they're doing the right work? How do we evaluate them? And how do we make sure that they don't do something that would violate security or privacy? So how do we really govern them?
Yeah, let's take those questions one by one. So I think first on what it looks like. I guess we can talk in terms of coding and more generally. I think coding is moving the fastest. It's where we're seeing things first, but I think it's a little bit of a foreshadow of what's going to happen across all applications. So within coding, the thing I always refer people to is this post by Steve Yege called "The Revenge of the Junior Developer," and I can't lay it out better than he has. His picture is, we started with coding, and first people just wrote code. Then there was the autocomplete era. Now we're moving to what Andrej Karpathy has called vibe coding, that has come to be associated with coding models and Claude in particular, which is where you kind of ask the model to do something and it's very interactive. I think then we're going to move to what Yege calls agent fleets, which is where you dispatch a number of agents to do things for you, and you act as essentially the manager of the agents. And then, it'll go from agent fleets to agent swarms, which is when each agent in the fleet itself deploys something. And so the human engineer is sitting atop a hierarchy. It's like they're managing an organization or a company, and they still need to intervene. They still need to set direction, but it's a much more leveraged thing. So in terms of governance, you can imagine if you have all these agents running around, whether they're doing coding or whether they're doing something much more broad than coding, which we expect with, the kind of virtual collaborator agents that we expect to build, that we expect to operate within enterprises, making sure that the agents don't, vent private information to the internet. They don't take random actions that, would give your security team a heart attack. These are very important, but I think fortunately, in many ways, I wouldn't call these solved problems, but these are problems we've been addressing for a long time, right? Collectively as a community. We have this idea of, privileges and permission. We have this idea of, security requirements and security boundaries. And you at Databricks, this has been very, very central for you, governing the permissions and the safety of the model. So our thinking is that we can slot our agents into it, that all the things we've developed for data governance and governance of processes for humans, we can in a way sort of treat the agents the way we would treat humans. And in other words, make the agents more powerful, but also give them assurances. And so again, this is an example of how we can kind of put these two things together and make something that's much greater than we could make with either component alone.
Yeah, I love that. And that was a focus from day one when we started talking, security, governance, how do we actually make sure that that's working as we launch Claude to, all of our customers just seamlessly in the platform. So at Databricks, one thing we're really excited about is helping AI reason on the proprietary data that these organizations have, basically domain-specific intelligence, or we call it data intelligence. I'm curious, what are you seeing enterprises do with data intelligence, and, what's it going to look like going forward?
Yeah, so I think this is an area that's accelerating quickly, that's really resonating. The ability to use data that's specific to an enterprise, it drives everything from an enterprise's desire for fine tuning to, enterprises see it, I think, correctly as, a source of unique and competitive advantage. So I've seen maybe three general patterns or general directions. One is, enterprises and many enterprises will go to multiple of these use cases that want to make use of kind of the basic knowledge within their enterprise. So, they want an agent that knows every piece of context about the business and can help teammates quickly find it. So, this is the thing that would have formerly been described as RAG, but I think it's gone beyond that, and there are many ways to do it, and we're excited to work with Databricks on it. There's a second bucket I would call maybe automation of processes. So, this would be anything from, kind of classical RPA type tasks to just automating any kind of process that's repetitive that happens within the organization. And here we want to make agents that kind of deeply understand business operations, while again handling the self-governance, making sure they don't go off the rails and are able to keep humans in the loop. And again, Claude models are good at this. Claude models specialize in that, and the framework we can build around it with Databricks is also helpful. The kind of creativity, research, and analysis, whether that's doing financial analysis or writing code or putting together a bunch of information into some kind of report, agents that act autonomously. This is what we were talking about in the last section, and are kind of able to improve the business, improve the quality of code, help with a new product release, a new marketing strategy. So I think we're increasingly leveraging these in all the different areas, including to improve our own internal productivity. And we've noticed substantial improvements in our own internal productivity due to all three of these use cases for Claude. I mean, I think it's always good advice that if you yourself are not deriving benefit from something, you probably shouldn't be selling it to others. So we are indeed deriving benefit in this case.
That's awesome. Yep, you should dog food your own stuff. We do that every day. That's super awesome. So yeah, you mentioned Claude many, many times. So you finally bumped the major version. And we now have Opus 4, we have Sonnet 4. Models are amazing, especially at coding, but also, writing, reasoning. Can you tell us a little bit about these? Tell us what's happening behind the scenes and, what you guys did to make these models.
Yeah, so as always, I mean, it's a mixture of data, more compute, new training techniques, new environments to train the models on, new algorithmic ideas. It's never one thing. It's always a mix of a variety of things. But I think a few things we're excited about. One is we're excited to have an Opus model again. We haven't had an Opus model for a while. They take longer. They're bigger. They take longer to train. But even I think beyond what's reflected in the benchmarks, Opus can do things that no other model, Anthropic or otherwise, is able to do, particularly in the coding domain. But beyond that, and I think Sonnet has been able to capture quite a lot of that power while still being at the kind of affordable price and speed. I think one thing I'm particularly excited about is the previous models had a little bit of a tendency to be over eager, to reward hack. It was hard to get the balance right between the models doing what you told them to do and the models being over eager and doing more than you would expect them to do. So just the fine sculpting of the models, following instructions, following human intent across coding, tool use, various other applications like customer service. That's something that it takes a lot of iteration to get it right, and we're still not perfect, but I think we've improved the process quite substantially in Opus.
Awesome. Okay, my last question. There's so much happening in the AI space. It's hard to keep up. There's innovations coming all the time. I'm curious, is there anything that you've seen recently that you're excited about and that in particular is going to impact enterprises? And how should they prepare for that?
Yeah, so I would say the virtual collaborator, the virtual coworker. This is something that we're working on, are gradually introducing the pieces of. I don't think there's any one place where there'll be one big release, but we're building the pieces of something that can use all the interfaces that a human can when interacting with a computer and behave in many ways like a human a worker that can be deployed as an assistant by humans. So, I think, again, as with many things, probably code will be the leading edge of it, and we'll have these agent fleets that we describe, but I think it'll go beyond that. I think that, we've been working on computer use for a while. I think computer use is an area that's going to advance. And again, in collaboration with Ali and Databricks, I think we're going to be thinking very hard about the affordances that the models have, the sources of data they can access and the permissions around those sources of data, the tools they can use to connect to everything else on the cloud. I think that'll be an important part of providing the models context, just as humans can be very smart, but their ability to log into their machines and install and use various tools, in many ways you're crippled without that. So I'm very excited for that general direction.
That's awesome. Yeah, super excited about that as well. Looking forward to many, many more years of partnership. Dario, thanks for calling in. I'll let you get back to the wedding. Let's give it a round of applause for Dario. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so now we're done with the databases. We're now talking AI, right, as you noticed. A year ago at this conference, we actually announced the agentic framework for you building your own agents that have data intelligence. So agents that can reason on your company's data, right? So artificial general intelligence can answer any question about anything on the web. That's super impressive. We leverage that. We leverage the models that Anthropic provides. They're available on all the clouds, so you can just use them. But how do we make the AI really reason on your data with high quality? So that's why we were excited about the agent framework when we announced it last year. We were excited about agents Everybody's excited about agents. You heard about the virtual collaborators, which are also agents in the organization that work with you. You can see the titles here, right? It's like not a day goes by without you seeing all these sort of the excitement around what's going on with agents. But we spent the last 12 months talking to our customers, seeing what they are doing, and are they actually getting these agents into production? What are the challenges they're seeing? What should we really do differently if we really want to make them successful? And despite all the, I would say, a little bit hype around this, these agents could be built in a much simpler way. It's still really, really challenging to build agents that are super reliable and just get the work done. So why is that? We spent a lot of time talking to our customers, to you, and seeing, where were the challenges? Where are you hitting roadblocks? And why is this so difficult? And we saw 3 things come up again and again. And those are the ones that we're going to address today. So we're excited about that. So what are the 3 problems? So problem number 1 that we actually heard again and again is that I actually don't know how my agents are doing. Like, I don't know if they're doing high-quality work or not, if they're doing errors, if they're hallucinating or not. In fact, we had a customer that had built agents that answered questions about their product. And this was a car manufacturer. And when you asked it, what's the best car I should buy, it was recommending the competitor's product. Okay? Maybe the agent is really smart, and maybe it's right. But our customer was not happy. That's one. But sometimes they'll tell you also that some products don't exist even though they exist in the catalog. Or sometimes they hallucinate features. And this is true for any agentic system out there. I mean, this is how these large language models are, right? Sometimes they hallucinate. Sometimes they get things wrong. The quality isn't yet there where we can just make it work. So that's problem number 1. How do we make sure that we can evaluate them? And in the industry, largely everybody's super focused on artificial superintelligence or artificial general intelligence. And the focus has been on very difficult benchmarks. Like, can you solve math Olympiad level problems? Or can you do international coding competition for us? And what score do you get on that? But we don't care about that. We just want, when I ask you about the car, can you please recommend this car? This is like the best car we're selling. And please don't say we don't have this car, we just launched it, and so on and so forth. So how do we get evals and benchmarks that really work on our data? So that's problem number 1, and that's the main one that we've been focusing on at Databricks. Problem number 2 is there's so many techniques coming out all the time. People are being inundated. I mean, as soon as they do something, or they use some vendor, or they use some technique, there's a new one coming out, and what you did is, so last week, it's completely outdated. Why are you doing it that way? Have you not seen this latest tweet by Andrej Karpathy? So people are having a hard time keeping up with everything that's happening, and they want to have, state-of-the-art agents. So this is another thing that came up again and again, and there's almost a fatigue around what's happening in the industry. Third one that we heard again and again, and this was a little bit surprising, is that they really want to balance cost versus quality. There's such a wide difference between the most expensive models and really, really small, tiny, cheap models, and it matters for the organization. But you also want to have adequate quality. So how do you balance this trade-off of quality versus cost for your agents? So that's why we're very excited. This is another one of our big announcements here at the conference, probably the last one today, to introduce Agent Bricks. Okay. So these are production AI agents auto-optimized on your data, okay? So they provide you data intelligence. And the way it works is that there are bricks for the different agents that you can build. They're high level. They map to your business problems in your organization. So unlike our agent framework from a year ago, which was much more low level, this maps to the business problems you have, and then it uses agent framework under the hood. So how does Agent Bricks work? From a high level, you describe the high level problem that you're trying to solve. Okay, so build an agentic system that answer questions about automotives that we offer. Okay, so you describe that, and you can give it more description, and you can be more prescriptive. So the more you describe the problem, the better it is. Then we do 3 things to address the 3 problems that I mentioned earlier. Number 1, and most importantly, we automatically create LLM judges for your specific problem. So no more, math contest, Olympiad level stuff, but instead, you get an agent that basically can evaluate. You can plug in any AI system that you have built, and it will tell you, this is the score you get if you want to have an agentic system that answers questions on automotives that we offer. okay? And you get a score on that, okay? And this builds on the particular insight that these large language models are much better judges than creators. It's intuitive, it's just like humans. I can tell you if a painting is really beautiful and if a painting is ugly. That does not mean that I can paint the beautiful painting, okay? Trust me. So it's the same thing with these AI models. They're the same way. So we'll help you build that. And then, of course, the judges could be wrong as well. So there's a way to have a human in the loop where the human can go in and make modifications and say, well, this question doesn't make sense, and this is not the answer you should be expecting. Once you have that, we have a way to evaluate your custom problem. This is essential. If we can't evaluate how the agent is doing at the particular task, there's no way we can do anything from there. So this is the key #1 ingredient. Number 2, we auto-optimize the system. Remember I said there's like a zoo of techniques coming out? Well, we have hundreds of people. We have a dedicated research team of PhDs that are just working on what's the best way to get the best quality and the right cost for that particular problem. Okay? And they've actually developed some really interesting techniques, but they also look at what's coming out, and this is going to continue to evolve, right? So we will optimize an AI system that does really well on the LLM judge benchmark. Okay? So we'll try to get a high score on this automotive offering agent by looking at all the different techniques that are out there, looking at all the different models. There are models from the frontier labs, there's open source models, you can fine tune them, you can do meta prompting, you can use vector search. So we'll do all of that for you automatically. And then once we've done that, we'll actually present to you a cost versus quality graph where you can literally see different dots that I can give you an AI system, the quality will be this much, but the cost will be that much. Or I can, have a lower quality, but significantly cheaper. And this matters. For some problems, you can get way cheaper and only sacrifice quality a little bit. And for some other problems, you want to really pay up, and it's the only way to get the quality to be good enough for your particular problem. And then the most important part of this is that it loops, and you can repeat this again and again. And our research team has developed a technique called agent learning that really helps you get feedback into the system and generalize it and keep optimizing it on new data that comes in so that the system gets smarter and smarter over time the more you use it. Okay, so that is what Agentbricks is. I'm super excited to welcome on stage Hanlin Tang, who's CTO of Neural Networks at Databricks, to tell us about how Agentbricks works under the hood. Let's welcome Hanlin.
Thank you, Ali. I'm very excited to be here today to do a deeper dive on Agentbricks and all things AI at Databricks. We spent the last year rethinking the best way to build agents, and we're very excited to share that with you today. So here's how Agentbricks works, which allows you to build high-quality and production-ready agents on your tasks. First, you select a task, and then declare a high-level description of what you want the agent to do. And then you attach your relevant data. From there, Agentbricks solves the 3 problems that Ali just spoke about. Based on your data and your task, we automatically create quality evaluation benchmarks. Evaluations are very specific to what you want your agent to do. For example, when the task is to summarize customer support transcripts, we'll create very specific judges, such as customer churn. Now you can be confident about measuring agent quality and bringing it to production. This is actually quite incredible. This is one of the few products out there that automatically create evaluations very specific to what you're trying to do. Then to deal with what Ali mentioned about so many different techniques that are out there, Agentbricks under the hood will automatically search through and compose different optimization methods and settings to deliver high quality. We may try fine-tuning, prompt optimization, reinforcement learning, or agentic workflows and patterns. So now you can trust that all the knobs are already optimized, and you're sitting on the cutting edge of research with Agentbricks. This then allows you to build agent systems that are both higher quality and lower cost compared to, say, simply DIY prompting a large language model. Then you can deploy and iterate on quality. Today we have 4 tasks with more on the way. Information extraction, which is an optimized pipeline to extract insights from documents. Knowledge assistant, to build high-quality question and answering or conversational agents on knowledge sources, such as documents. Multi-agent supervisor, which is probably my favorite, which is able to stitch together multiple agents, MCP servers, and Genie agents into a single system to tackle very complex reasoning tasks. And lastly, we have custom LLM, which is able to support custom tasks such as content generation or customer chat. For example, you can use our knowledge assistant brick and say, hey, build me an agent that answers, I don't know, technical support questions in telecommunications and attach your knowledge sources. Then we go figure out the exact agent architecture and optimize the configuration for quality. This is how Agentbricks works. And we build extremely high-quality agents with Agentbricks. On an average, across several question-answering benchmarks, Agentbricks scores significantly higher, reaching about 76% accuracy compared to similar products from 2 major cloud providers. Not only that, as Ali alluded to, we've built the capability for continual learning. So over time, with guidance, quality continues to improve. And our customers love Agentbricks, with Hawaiian Electric raving about the quality of the system compared to some DIY implementations. Agentbricks also delivers on both cost and quality, so no need to trade them off. Here is a benchmark on document understanding, so extracting insights from PDF documents with quality on the y-axis and cost on the x-axis. If you just prompt engineer GPT 4.1 Mini, you might sit at this point here. But then with Agentbricks, we deliver a series of systems that are both higher quality, as shown on some of these red points, and sometimes even can get higher quality with over 10x lower cost. And that's why customers like AstraZeneca have been able to use Agentbricks to parse through more than 400,000 clinical trial documents. Now, many no-code, one-click builders are very easy to use on the x-axis here, but also fairly low quality with no ability to improve. Or to achieve high quality, you sometimes have to painfully prompt engineer 5 different LLMs, assemble them together, test them. It's very complex and difficult. Instead, as I've shown, we think with Agentbricks, it is both easy to use, but also able to produce incredibly high-quality agents. How is this possible? What do we do to achieve this? Well, Agentbricks is powered by all the amazing work by our Databricks Mosaic AI research team. You see, there's a zoo of methods out there for improving agent quality, and the latest research drops at a breathless pace. I can barely keep up. So what our research team does is it goes through and carefully curates a set of methods from the literature, ranging from reinforcement learning to agent deep research workflows, and then we add on top our new latest innovations from our research team, such as test-time adaptive optimization, we call it TAO, or mixed attention. And then we package all of this cutting-edge tech behind the product surface that is incredibly intuitive to use with Agentbricks. One example of a recent innovation from our team addresses the problem of agent steerability, which is how do you guide agent behavior so it's optimized on your task and guidelines? Sure, you can do the time-honored tradition of LLM prompt stuffing, where you shove all of those instructions and guidance into a 40,000 token LLM prompt and hope that is all coherent and follows. But that can be very brittle and difficult to maintain. And oftentimes, in an agent system, you have many different components, not just one LLM anymore, that you have to adjust all the individual knobs for. And moreover, often the feedback you get in production is a simple thumbs up or thumbs down feedback, which does not have that rich context. So the technique we've developed, we call it agent learning from human feedback, works as follows. If you have an agent system with many of these components, and you say you provide some natural language guidance, say, hey, ignore all the data from before May 1990. Agent learning from human feedback will automatically, intelligently figure out, hey, which of these knobs and components and data sources do I have to change to respect this natural language guidance? We might go in the vector index and prune some data. We might add a new judge to ensure this thing is respected. We might modify the tool descriptions, and we might re-optimize the entire system to respect your natural language feedback. For the ML aficionados out there, you might recognize that in traditional approaches, a model produces an output, and then you receive a numerical score, upon which we go through and update the weights through the deep learning backprop process. And with agent learning from human feedback, instead of just getting a numerical score, the system is now able to retrieve natural language guidance, a very rich context. And then we've developed intelligent ways to update the agents from that natural language guidance. And our customers love Agentbricks. Flow Health has used it to double their agent's medical accuracy. Lipper was able to achieve high-quality improvements with our feedback loop. Experian finds the ability to continually improve the quality over time to be incredibly valuable. Kythera says that our agents are a significant improvement on a typical RAG chatbot. Agentbricks is in beta, and for that, I would love to introduce on stage Kasey to do a live demo of Agentbricks. Please join me in welcoming Kasey.
Thanks, Hanlin. All right, so for those of you who tuned in last year, we're moving on from cookies to energy drinks. So in this demo, we're going to build 2 agents with Agentbricks. The first one, we're going to build a knowledge assistant for our energy drink company's R&D department to help them ask questions over their different formulas and recipes. And we're going to use automated evaluation and agent learning to help them improve the quality. Then we're going to take that high-quality R&D agent, combine it with some of our other departments' expert agents into a multi-agent supervisor system so we can answer our CEO's toughest questions. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in and build this knowledge assistant. Inside of Databricks, we're going to come over to the left nav to find Agentbricks. Hold on, there we go. And we just have to click on this Agents tab over here to get to it. Here you'll see there are those 4 tasks that Hanlin mentioned. So today we have these predefined agent workflows for 4 of the most common agents. More will be coming. For the R&D department, we're going to build a knowledge assistant because they have a bunch of PDFs that they want to ask questions over. I went ahead and already configured one of these, but you're going to see how easy it is with our declarative approach to build one of these agents. So all you have to do is, in natural language, describe the task that you want your agent to accomplish. And then you just need to configure your knowledge sources. It could be an existing vector search index, or if you just have a bunch of files in a UC volume, that works as well. And that's what I have here is a PDF of a bunch of recipes and formulas in my UC volume, and Agentbricks is going to automatically index it into a vector database for me. So with that, you just click Create Agent, and then you have an agent. And the way that you can see that is that you will automatically have an API endpoint built for you that then you can integrate into an application, or you can immediately test it. So let's go test it out. So a common question my R&D department asks is to ask about the surge sugar cap formula, or to see if their formulas exceed the surge sugar cap. All that really means is they want to see if there's so much sugar in the energy drink that it overwhelms the flavor. So we're going to go ahead and test it out. So we're going to see, does spicy mango exceed the surge sugar cap? And we're going to go ahead and ask that question. Typo. Well, now you know it's live. All right, so in here, we're going to see that already you have your knowledge assistant built, and you can already start querying it, and you had that's the benefit of this sort of declarative approach that we have. The other thing that you'll notice is that it provides citations for you. So this helps you build trust in that knowledge assistant that you've built. It's going to cite its sources as well as link to the various documents that it used. So just like that, we now have our knowledge assistant built. But let's take a look at this answer. And it says, it's basically saying, if you have that information, you can make the comparison. But it sounds like it doesn't really know what this surge sugar cap is. And as a developer, I don't know if it doesn't know this because there's a problem with retrieval, or maybe I just don't have any documents that have this information in it at all. So this is where automated evaluation is going to come into play. If I go back to my agent, you can see that every single agent is configured with MLflow tracing automatically set up. And MLflow trace is automatically tracking every incoming request, every outgoing response, and all the inter-agent calls in between. You can then also see that my Agentbricks has created and enriched every single trace with automated evaluation. So you can see here it created custom metrics for my task and is giving me these sort of automated insights right away without me having to go to a subject matter expert for a manual review. So now I can instantly get a signal on my agent performance. You can see that it's still loading the judges, still like running the judges here. So I'm just going to go ahead and look and see if other people have asked about the surge sugar cap. You can see it's not doing well on any of these questions. I can then click inside, go inside the details. We can see, re-ranking is run. We can see which documents are returned. And then sure enough, you can see none of the documents that returned are relevant. So it doesn't know, none of our documents have any information on the surge sugar cap. And this makes sense because I gave it a bunch of recipes, but this is domain-specific jargon. All right, so with that, you just quickly saw how agent evaluation is going to give us these custom metrics out of the box so that we can quickly understand our agent performance, and how MLflow traces are going to allow us to root cause what the problem is. But how do I fix this? Like Hanlin mentioned, there's so many different knobs that I can turn and so many different ways that I could go about fixing my agent performance. But I want to remove the guesswork from that. So to remove the guesswork from the equation, I'm going to use agent learning. Agent learning is going to allow me to use natural language guidance to steer my agent performance in the right direction. So to get to that, we're going to go back to our agent, and we're going to click this Improve Quality tab at the top. The way that agent learning works is I'm going to give it some example questions, and then I'm going to give it natural language feedback on what the response should look like. Now, we found that the more feedback that you get, the better the system does. So we created this Generate Questions button, which is going to synthetically generate a bunch of questions for you based off your configured knowledge sources. Unfortunately, we do not have time for that today. So we're just going to manually add one for that surge sugar cap question. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and paste in this question. For those of you who noticed, it's a slightly different question than what we asked in Playground. We did that because I want to show you that this is generalizing to the system. It's not overfitting to a particular question. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it my guidelines. So I'm going to use natural language to teach it what the surge sugar cap is. All you need to know from this is that it's going to look into the flavors archetype and look at the grams per sugar in a 12-ounce can. Other than that, we don't need to know. Phew. All right. So with that, we've now created natural language guidance. So Agentbricks is going to take this natural language requirement that we gave it, and it's going to convert it into a technical optimization. So it might change my retrieval, it might change filtering, or it might even change the prompt, or a combination of the above. So let's see if it actually worked. So we're going to go back to the playground where it wasn't able to answer the question, and we're just going to go down and regenerate the response. And this is where the magic's going to happen. So I can even peek inside right now into the agent thinking. And when I zoom in here, you can see that it already now knows that it needs to identify the archetype. It's too fast for me. As well as the grams per 12 ounce. So you can see it already incorporated the learning that we gave it. And then now it is able to answer this question correctly. So that's how you can use agent learning to skip all of these sort of configurations with these low-level knobs and just use natural language to help improve your agent performance. So now we just have our R&D knowledge assistant. Thank you. Pretty cool. So now we just built a knowledge assistant for our R&D team, and we were able to understand our agent performance with automated evaluation, and we were able to improve its performance with natural language. But what if I want to ask a more complex question? So in fact, my CEO called me into her office, and she said, what energy drink flavor should we build next? And this is a super complex question, and it's going to involve a lot of research. I'm going to have to go to my marketing department and figure out which flavors are trending on social media. I'm going to need to go to finance and figure out how much is all this stuff going to cost. And I'm going to need to go to R&D to figure out, do any of the flavors have allergens in them that's going to impact our market sizing? If I were to do this today, it would involve a lot of cross-team collaboration. I would need to figure out which person and which department I need to talk to, and we might not even be in the same place or time zone. But what if each of these departments had their own expert agent? And that's where Agentbricks' multi-agent supervisor comes into play. Agentbricks' multi-agent supervisor is going to allow you to orchestrate together Genie spaces, agent endpoints, and MCP servers. This means you can ask complex questions across your structured data, your unstructured data, as well as any tools that you have in order to answer complex questions. So let's go take that R&D as agent that we just built and combine it with other expert agents across our departments, put it together in a supervisor, and then use that to answer our CEO's question. So now we're going to go back into Databricks. We're We're going to go back to our AgentBricks landing page, and now we're going to click on the multi-agent supervisor. Just like we saw with Knowledge Assistant, there's a declarative approach to building all of these agents. So I just need to give it a quick description in here of what it's going to do and the tasks that I want it to solve. And then I just need to configure my agents. So we're first going to configure our agent endpoint. So we're going to come in here and get the one that we just built for the R&D team. Then we're going to configure a Genie space. You'll also note that you could select an MCP server in here as well. So now we're going to hook it up to our marketing. I lost it. Oh, I didn't click the right one. Sorry. Genie space. Now we're going to hook it up to marketing. And then we're going to connect it to our Genie space from our finance and BizOps team. In here. Finance. Too zoomed in. There we go. All right, and with that, I just have to click Create Agent. So super declarative way to do this. I just said what the task is I wanted this multi-agent system to do. I configured a bunch of agents together, and now I have an endpoint that I can query in line in here to now test how it works. Now, this will take a couple seconds to build, which we do not have. So I went ahead and built this already, exact same configuration, which you can see here over on the left. And now we can ask it our CEO's question. So we're going to ask it, which energy drink flavor should we pilot next? How long is it going to take to develop? And what is it going to cost? You can see that our supervisor agent is chugging along here. So basically what's happening is taking this super complex question that we asked, it's going to break it down into smaller sub-questions. And then it's going to figure out which of the sub-agents it should delegate each question to, and which order it should call them in. So it might take the output of one agent and put it as the input to the next. So let's kind of see what's happening here with that. So for example, you can see here, the first thing it said is like, oh, we need to figure out which flavors are trending on social media. So I went in and asked my agent marketing that. And you can see here it returned cucumber, apparently. Then we can go in and pass cucumber into the R&D recipe to say, do we have any cucumber-based concept flavors? Which then it returned, yep, we do. We have watermelon cucumber. And then it's going to call BizOps to see like what's the development timeline and so on and so forth. And so it's going to keep on asking this for several seconds. And then it's going to generate a report, which to prove that this is accurate, you can just scroll up and see many more calls later. It's going to return a launch report that looks something like this. And this is pretty incredible. In fact, let me zoom in so you can see exactly this kind of content. I would send this to my CEO. It's basically going to look through, it did a market demand analysis, seeing based on social media sentiment, watermelon and cucumber are the most active, and we do have a combination for this. It's going to look at allergen safety. It's going to look at ingredient considerations. It created the development timeline for me, telling me it's going to take 4 to 6 months from idea to market for this. It's going to tell me my cost considerations. It even looked at my changeover costs on my different factory lines. And then it's going to give me next steps in here. So this is something that now, in a couple seconds, I was able to generate a report that I can share to my CEO so that we can make complex, data-driven decisions. And so before you know it, you'll be able to launch the coolest new energy drink or whatever you have for your company out there. And so that was just a quick preview of AgentBricks. So you saw that we were able to build quickly a knowledge assistant and get it to high quality by using automated evaluations so we could understand our agent performance, as well as agent learning, where we use natural language to actually improve the agent performance. Then once we have all of these high-quality agents, we're going to need to stitch them together with our various tools and each other so that we can answer really complex questions across our organization, and that's what the multi-agent supervisor allows us to do. So we're very excited about AgentBricks and what people will be able to achieve with this, and we can't wait to see what you all build with it. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Hanlin. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kasey. That was an incredible live demo of AgentBricks. It's amazing to see how it's able to stitch together multiple different agents to answer super complex questions. AgentBricks uses all the individual components of our AI stack, from model serving to vector search to MLflow. Now I'd like to highlight a few pretty major announcements we have across those product areas. Agents produced by AgentBricks or other agent systems need monitoring, tracing, and observability. So we're very excited to be launching today MLflow 3.0. Woo! We've redesigned MLflow for the generative AI era. With production apps everywhere, not even those hosted outside of Databricks, you can now set up real-time tracking and observability. With our prompt registry, you can now track, version, and deploy prompts from Unity Catalog. And we've also developed an entire suite dedicated to generative AI evaluation and feedback that both Agent Bricks, as Kasey sort of demoed, and also DIY agents can take advantage of. Sometimes you may want to build custom models on GPUs yourself to embed into these agent systems. So we're very excited today to announce a major step in our serverless compute, and that is that GPUs are now available in serverless compute. Across notebooks and jobs, we're announcing A10s are in beta with H100s coming soon. Already, some of our beta customers, like FactSet, report that GenAI training has been greatly streamlined. And Rivian reports that they're able to now efficiently train and multimodal models for their in-car experience. So we can't wait to see what amazing AI models or other computing you can do with GPUs in Databricks Serverless. Model Context Protocol is a common protocol to deliver tools and knowledge to large language models. So we're very excited to share that we're now launching support for MCP on Databricks. First, you can host your own MCP servers using Databricks apps. You can develop and prototype with MCP integrated directly into Playground as tools. You can also connect to several Databricks-hosted MCP servers for some of our major services like UC Functions, Genie, and Vector Search. And as Kasey showed, you can also connect MCP into Agent Bricks as well. Now, we've been tracking all of the major protocols that are out there, and we're very excited for the vision of other protocols such as agent-to-agent. It's very exciting for us to see the community rally around a lot of these standard protocols. We have so many more announcements, I can't possibly cover them all. They would kick me off stage. But here's a big panel of a lot of them. We have AI functions in SQL, which were announced last year, that are now fast, lower cost, and multimodal. They're now able to analyze documents and other types of image data. That's now 3 times faster than the competition. We rebuilt vector search from the ground up that can now scale to billions of vectors and up to 7 times lower costs. Hear more about all these amazing announcements throughout the keynotes today and tomorrow, as well as in all the individual sessions. A few key takeaways. We have announced Agent Bricks, delivering high-quality agents auto-optimized on your data. It's powered by some of the latest research from our Databricks Mosaic AI research team. And thousands of companies are now in production with data intelligence on Databricks. To hear from one of those leading customers of ours, I'd like to welcome on stage Greg, the Chief AI and Data Officer from MasterCard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being here, Greg. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So over the past year, MasterCard has been developed an internal agent assistant platform in partnership with Databricks. We'll have to hear more about what you brought into production and what kind of impact it has had.
Sure, and maybe it makes sense to begin with why this mattered for us. MasterCard's been using AI for 2 decades plus. We use it for fraud detection. It powers a lot of our services, which are now over 35% of our business. When Gen AI hit, we had hundreds of ideas across the organization, how different processes could become more efficient with Gen AI. But what we struggled with was taking these ideas and getting them enterprise grade and scalable across the enterprise. So we did a few things. We brought data and AI together under one roof. We created a data and AI organization to prioritize the use cases as well as the technology needed to enable this. And we started working more with Databricks on a few use cases. And one of the first ones was how do we help our customers consume and integrate our products more efficiently and rapidly given the technical work that's required. And so we created what we call the Product Onboarding Assistant, which we built on the data intelligence platform with Databricks to do this. We trained it on thousands of documents, Q&A back and forth between our agents and our customers. And by doing that, we had great results. We were able to reduce the time it takes our customers to onboard our products by up to 30%. And when you look at all the inbound queries coming into our agents, 85% of those that used to be escalated to a more senior agent were being addressed by the original agent that it was coming into. That improves the customer experience. It also empowers our agents and our employees and improves their experience as well. We then took that and sort of extrapolated into the MasterCard Assistant platform, basically using the same technology, data governance, and architecture to create a platform upon which we can build additional agents over time.
That's amazing to hear how these generative AI in production has had real business impact, and great to have this partnership with you and your team. As a valued partner, we gave you early access and a sneak peek into AgentBricks.
Yeah.
Curious to learn what you have found and what aspects of the technology you're most excited about.
Yeah, we're very excited to be exploring AgentBricks with you. If we step back, Databricks is helping our analytic teams today in a variety of ways. We have a lot of our data connected into the platform. We leverage Unity Catalog, using Mosaic and other capabilities on top of that. As we look forward to what we need to do, there were 3 things that we talked with your team about. One is we want to scale more use cases more rapidly. And we think a lot of the patterns that are inherent within AgentBricks are good solutions for what we're trying to do. The second one is we need consistent, high-quality, rapid evaluations of what we're doing, and we love the eval capabilities that are within AgentBricks. And the third one is trust. We need to trust the capabilities. We need to trust the data handling, as that's our most precious asset. We need to trust the partnership. And we think with the security practices, the data governance tools, and the partnership we have with Databricks, that enables us with AgentBricks to scale more use cases and to do so with the right security, the right governance, and the right trust in place.
And it's been fantastic to work with the MasterCard team through their entire AI journey. Curious to learn, before we wrap up, sort of where is MasterCard headed in terms of Gen AI?
Sure. There's sort of 3 areas that we're focused on. The first, we've talked a lot about data intelligence today. And while we see 159 billion transactions on our network, and we have very good patterns for real-time fraud detection, to aggregate and anonymize that data for insights for our customers. But what we're working on is bringing more of our data assets together, creating a data mesh, again in partnership with Databricks, with a consistent medallion architecture, with the right governance and controls on that, so we can innovate and drive more intelligence across all of our data assets together. The second thing we're doing is around the world of AI, and there are 4 areas that we focus on. Like everybody in this room, we use it to make our organization stronger. That's around knowledge management. It's around role-specific agents like customer support with the product onboarding assistant, but also engineering and consulting and internal applications. We also use it for our customers and for the ecosystem. We're trying to make the ecosystem safer. We're using Gen AI as a feature within our existing fraud models to bring additional data and improve the efficacy. We want to make the payments ecosystem smarter, platforms for our customers to optimize their portfolios, enabling the exciting world of open finance. We want to make commerce more personal. Gen AI plus the data we can bring in enable us to give platforms to our customers so they can tailor offers, products, solutions to their consumers more effectively. And then finally, we're focused on innovation. There are 2 things I'll mention there quickly. One is around data clean rooms, another thing we're doing in partnership with Databricks. How can we bring MasterCard data together with customer data in a safe and secure way, bounded by privacy-enhancing technologies, and create data derivatives for new solutions and new insights that we couldn't do in a safe and secure way previously. And then the final one is around agentic commerce. Shopping is changing. It's moving from search to AI platforms. And within AI platforms, we're seeing people want to not just search and get product recommendations, but to transact there as well. But that's complicated. Our fraud rules today, when we see a non-human transaction, that's an indication of fraud. Identity and verification have to evolve when we have a new party, the AI agent, in place. And so we've launched MasterCard Agent Pay to use our technology around network tokens, advanced authentication, and fraud prevention to enable agentic commerce to happen with the same transparency, trust, and accountability as we experience in online commerce today. So those we're working on.
That's great to hear, and thank you so much for being here. Here at Databricks, we see the way that MasterCard has approached productionizing generative AI by focusing on the data first, thinking about the priorities and rolling things out to be a great example for many of our customers that are out there. Thank you, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Please welcome back to the stage Databricks co-founder and CEO, Ghodsi.
Awesome. So we're super excited about the Agent Bricks. That's our last big announcement for today. We do have lots of big announcements in data analytics. There's a whole new category of things that we're going to release tomorrow, so please make sure to show up. But now I'm really, really excited for the man who needs no introduction. It's a Wall Street titan and one of the absolute most impressive CEOs that I've had the pleasure to meet, running a very large 300,000 person organization in a very regulated space. Please give a round of applause for Jamie Dimon, Chairman and CEO of JP Morgan Chase.
What a crowd.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow. My God.
It's a big audience, and it's filled all the way into the back, so but they can see us on the cameras in the back. So thank you for doing this. Super excited to have you here.
Hell yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, folks. I look forward to this.
So I'm curious. You guys have a whopping $18 billion budget that you spend on IT every year. I'm super curious. What are the biggest priorities with that?
So JP Morgan Chase, we operate in 100 countries around the world, and we have 30 or 40 data centers around the world. It's constantly upgrading technology. Your data centers, your networks, cyber, and of course the world you guys are in is I've never seen somebody move quite this quickly in technology. But in every part of the company, the corporate center does networks, cyber, policy, stuff like that, but we have 55,000 programmers. So every part of the company has their own devoted programs, credit card, sales and trading, movement of money, which you guys use some of your product on, at a very detailed level. And whenever we meet, anytime with reviews, we go through what people's technology and AI projects are, to make sure we're trying to do the right job for our clients.
That's awesome. Curious, so obviously of that $18 billion, AI has got to be a big priority.
Yeah.
Curious, what's the aim, what's the goal, what are the biggest things that you guys want to accomplish with AI, and how do you think about it in general?
Yeah, so we've always been big data. I mean, my whole life, when you're in our business, for the risk you bear, trading, we move $10 trillion a day. We buy and sell 3 trillion of securities every day. And in 2012, we first used Palantir. And I remember sitting down with the Palantir people and going through this AI thing, saying, holy Christ, this is unbelievable. So we, right after that, started our own department. And we're probably one of the few companies, and then in 2014, and maybe 7 years ago, we hired a woman called Manuela Velosa, who ran machine learning at Carnegie Mellon. We have 200 people in a research group alone that does that for us. We now spend about $2 billion on AI. We have something like 600 actual in-use cases. Some are really important, some are more minor. That number will probably double next year, maybe triple. It'll just keep on growing. I just saw the demonstration of the watermelon cucumber thing. We'll have hundreds of those, and hundreds of agents, and we're just starting to use agents. And we took AI/data out of technology. So we're probably one of the few companies that said it's too important, and technology does a great job, and obviously they're deep partners, and all of them. Yeah. But we put it at the management table. So the woman running AI and data now reports to me and our president, so that we can elevate it, and that we spend much more time thinking about what are we doing to accelerate it? Are we doing enough? Are we doing it right? As you know, we test a lot of things. We work with a lot of people in the Valley. It will change everything. We don't have our head in the sand. There will be no job, no process, no function, nothing that takes place that won't be affected by it, mostly for the positive. There will be job issues, some job losses. And the other part, which is I think the hardest part, is getting your own people. I'm not talking about me or even the tech people, but getting all the people who run these businesses to understand the power of it. So they're saying, hey, if you can do that, I can do this. And so they come up with intelligent projects to do.
I'm curious, you said this, that you took it out of the org.
Yeah.
There's so many leaders that are here in the audience, and they're in companies, and they ask all the time, what's the best way for us to accelerate AI and get the whole organization? Is this something you recommend, doing it that way, thinking about it that way?
I do. And the problem with when someone says, again, this is not an insult to anyone in technology, but when it's in technology, it's part of a conversation. The person is at every single meeting I have with management teams, is part of every conversation, and the way to accelerate it, first of all, we have people coming out here all the time, like all the time, just to stay on top of what you're doing. We have investments in 100 different companies out here. You know, we're testing and learning. We don't mind failing and things. We test all the clouds, and but having it there, put it this way, every time we meet, at every detailed meeting, so it could be like a small business credit card, it could be the movement of money, or it could be how we do swipes, or it could be sales and trading, FX in Vietnam. We have people saying, what can AI do to do that better? And I think you probably know, we actually use you guys to do, when we move all that money around the world, very often people want it in a certain place, and they want it in a certain currency, and this is now being done by AI. Databricks systems, I think we call it BRIE internally, you know, to deliver the money that you want and the currency you want, you know, at the price you want in a certain place. So, but the hard part is just review it every time. So there's no meeting that we have, we don't say, what are we doing? What are you doing? Do you understand it? We opened up for internal documents. We have 200,000 people using LLM on our internal data. So not the, you know, this is not LLMs on the web. And the internal data the companies have probably dwarfs some of the stuff you have on the web. And it's very specific, you know, where you shopped and what you bought and what you did and how you spend your money and where you travel, what restaurants you like to eat at. So we're allowing people to use that internal, and we're constantly dumping more data into that. So start thinking with emails and just, you know, reviewing legal documents and things like that. But now you're going to get more and more data that could be analyzed inside. And eventually, you know, because, you know, the data warehouse, data lakes you guys do, we can analyze this data, both internal data and external, without leaking the internal, which we can't do. We're just prohibited for a whole bunch of different reasons. So,
yeah, it makes sense. How important is this data? Like, can you have, like, is AI and data kind of separated, or you really need, you know, a great foundation? And, you know, we're so fortunate to have you guys as customers. You know.
The hardest part's the data, which you know.
Yeah.
It isn't the AI. You know, it's not the machine learning. It's not the generative AI. It's getting your people to use it properly, but it's the data. So we have data, and not because, you know, we're dumb, but these companies were mergers over, tons of mergers over time. So there's credit card data, there's credit card risk data, there's sales and trading data, there's consumer data, there's auto data, there's tons of FICO and credit score data. I mean, I forgot the number, but it dwarfs everything. So getting the data in the form that it could be usable is the hard part, and you guys have cracked a lot of that code because it's in different formats and different, you know, if some was hardwired in Exadata and some was, you know, in those relationship databases, and some was completely unstructured, you know, like just conversations that people had, or you know, on call center, something like that. But now we're being able to access all of them to do a better job.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And, you know, I have to say, I'm very, very impressed just seeing how JP Morgan Chase organizes everything. I think it's just, you guys invest a lot in getting things right in the foundation. And, you know, that took many, many years. And, you know, the push to the cloud, all of these things have taken many, many years. That's why you can move fast now and reap those benefits. But I have to say, personally, also for me, I think also you push, you know, top down in your organization as well. And I see that lacking in some other large organizations. There's like lots of fiefdoms and lots of different folks that are pushing their own, we got to do it this way, no, we got to do it that way, and then there's a stalemate. So it's super, super impressive to see. I'm curious if this has something to do with, I mean, you've seen many tech waves, you know, in your career, you know, starting with the mainframe, you know, to the cloud, and now AI. You know, what have you learned from these tech waves? And is there anything we can apply to this one that's coming now? Are there any similarities or any differences?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you read history, I'm going way back now, tech is the thing that changed mankind. You know, we were hunter-gatherers until you had agriculture. Agriculture created cities and specialties, and, you know, then you had, you know, electricity and water and, you know, the internet, and all these technologies, and then, you know, I don't consider the iPhone an invention because it's really 80 inventions put together in a beautiful piece of thing. How they roll out, they will roll out. They do change the world. They cause so many things you don't understand. I mean, cars created suburbs. or shopping malls, or it just rolls through. There's a cosmological constant. It's always coming. The pace of it is different. The internet was invented. My brother worked at the Fermi Labs, and I remember visiting him in 1975 or something like that, looking at those little squiggly green screens. That was the ARPANET. And it was these big universities sharing data on experiments they were doing at the Fermi Labs to Niels Bohr Institute in Denmark or something. So it's coming. It'll all change everything. And we've always said you got to make it part of your life. So I've always had technology at the table. I've always had them part of the management teams. I've always had our people tech people have to be business literate. They got to understand your problems. Business people have to be tech literate. I don't have to understand how a lithium battery works. I don't have to understand exactly how your super agents work. I have to understand what they can do so I can deploy it. It's like the army using the weapons you have or something like that. So this one is faster. I mean, this one is faster. It's immediate. It's moving very quickly. I don't even know what it's going to do that much. I do know, my view is, don't spend much time debating it. Don't talk about whether you need large language models or small ones. We use data, AI, to hedge our equity books. So every second, and I'm talking about split seconds, when we move money, we're doing 6,000 movements of money in a split second. And you can't run an LLM model against that. But you can use much more confined data, which is doing AI in much smaller models, and you just got to get good at it. Don't put your head in the sand. I know a lot of companies are worried about it. What are they going to tell their people? What I tell their people is, we are going to be the best at AI. Large models, small models, this cloud, that cloud. Just use technology to do a better job. If you don't, you'll be left behind. There may be winner take all in certain categories. I also don't want to be arrogant about it. JPorn is ahead of a lot of people. On the other hand, you guys are going to be able to deploy your, as a competitive matter, my competitors will get it from other people too. And then, people who serve smaller banks, they're going to use your stuff and deliver it to them. So, all the competitors will have it. It isn't like you're going to be the only one with these weapons, but maybe being first matters a lot in terms of having data. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be hard. This will change a lot. And the other thing about jobs, it is what we learned like in a call center. I thought, oh God, go to credit card call center. People spend $1 trillion a year on our credit card. And that will deploy data, it'll just change the calls. It doesn't work like that. You have to deploy it on a task, at least so far.
Yeah.
And when you're deploying that task, you can deploy it on another task. And it works on that task. It will reduce jobs and make our lives easier. But I tell people, we have in operation centers and call centers, 150,000 people, but the turnover is 15 to 20%. So I look at attrition as being your friend. If we know it's going to change, and then we can retrain and redeploy people. So a lot of those people are very talented. They know our client base, or they can upskill. So a lot of things you can do that can take care of your people. We are going to take care of our people. And the other thing about AI, it's going to be used by bad people. We know that. Just so we're cars, planes, pharmaceuticals. So you need some kind of understanding of that. But the thing that scares me the most is on cyber. And I've heard literally in the last week or two, we spend almost $1 billion a year in cyber protection, just in the last week or two, about how people are using agents to try to penetrate major companies. And that's scary stuff. And so we have to really make sure we protect ourselves. And there are bad guys already using it. And of course, we're trying to use it to combat them. So.
But it's also true with all technology.
All technology,
right?
yeah.
It's just this one maybe is faster.
This is faster, and cyber. The thing about cyber is, I tell people, like, when you talk about warfare now, it's here. It's in our computers. It's in our skies. It's in our satellites. In our wireless. I don't think a lot of Americans realize how bad cyber is. Just that as an act of war. I'm not talking about ransomware.
Can I ask about that? If you're talking about cyber, right? Privacy, security attacks. You guys are highly regulated. You're a bank. You're extremely important to the whole planet. What are you doing about protecting yourself? And is there anything AI can do here to even help, or does it just hurt us?
Yeah. So cyber is the only part of the company where I tell people it's a police state. We're going to put in rules, and you have to follow them. From changing your passcodes to who can access systems to what you can do when you're outside of our private networks and then you're right, legally, and we have to deal with regulators in 100 countries, and they'll have different rules and regulations. We have to follow those. But legally, fundamentally, we can't sell our data, okay? And we have to protect our data. And when our data goes out, which sometimes it does, sometimes the customer can send the data out, we still have to protect it in a million different ways, from encryption to watermarking to, and the other thing is our government, like my regulators, are not nearly as protected as we are. And you know, when they come to they all want to do penetration testing us, I mean, they don't know how to do it. And they ask us, show us your weak spots. And I say, well, I'm going to send you my weak spots, and it's going to go into your unsecured database. And how much I'm not going to do. So cyber, everything we do, everything we rolled out, I think we probably use 100 companies to help us protect cyber, network segmentation, data segmentation, air gapping certain systems. It's everything we can possibly do. We work with the CIA and the FBI and the NSA as best we can, and I think they're doing a much better job at that. So we're fully engaged in this one. But this one is, you know, when I deal with people, I tell them, this one is the most important for us, bar none. The other thing about us, and this is true maybe for a lot of your companies out there, we're hooked into 600 exchanges around the world. We're hooked into the Fedwire, and we're hooked into the equivalent, you know, wires of central banks in, you know, 60 countries. And if you look at all these endpoints and exchanges and money movements, they're not all protected. You know, and they don't all have our security. So we do third-party oversight, but even third-party oversight, it's once a year. Wow. It's not the same thing. So, you know, if we find a weak spot somewhere, we often inform the government before they know what's going on with certain things about certain North Koreans or Chinese actors out there. This one's important. You know, our water supply, our communications, some of the banks. You know, if a bank went down, a major bank, you know, and you don't know what the money is, you know, I remember President Obama asked me years ago, well, what do I do? I said, you have to have a bank holiday. you would have no choice and try to recover the data, you know, and we all have backed up data and all the things like that. But if I had to tell you all how many times the fail-safe systems didn't work in my life, almost every time.
Wow.
Because it didn't always anticipate what caused the problem. And maybe AI will help us do a better job of that. But
fingers crossed. I have to say, your security team is amazing, and it's been amazing partnering with you. You push us. You know, it's you guys are paranoid.
I want to brag on one of my guys back here, Larry Feinsmith. We have teams that do nothing but look at all the stuff you guys are inventing and what you're doing and bringing back to the company. We invest in some of those. Obviously, we want to bank some of those. So. But it keeps us much smarter.
Yeah. So speaking of, you know, risks, there's so much talk about the race against China in AI. And, you know, are we ahead? Are they going to catch up? Can you be ahead? How should we be thinking about it? How do we ensure? Is it important that U.S. has leadership? And if so, how do we do that?
Well, it's a big question. American military leadership, in my view, is critical to the health of the future free and democratic world, and has provided this umbrella to all of our allies. And all these companies, even though and when I travel around the world, we really piss them off, just so you know. but they really appreciated that umbrella, and they're worried about it because, you know, they see all this stuff. So yes, it's very important. It's a little embarrassing that we as a nation, you can blame businesses, you can blame the military, you can blame the government. I hate crying over spilled milk, that we allowed 100% of our penicillin to come from China. You know, all these rare earths that you read about, but there's more than that. And yes, we should be a technological leader. You do not want to give them the 2 nano-centimeter chips or whatever, nano chips that can make their supersonic missiles better. Now, I think if you stop doing that, by the way, it won't be forever. You know, so in other words, you can slow them down, but they put huge effort in. When they want to do something, they put 50,000 engineers on it, and, you know, all their universities and stuff like that. So, and they don't have to be a lifelong adversary. So I'm not saying we're at war with China or anything like that, but yes, we should protect ourselves and be very specific about those things that protect us. And obviously, technology is a big piece of that. They can get, you know, they get some of the stuff you all do from, because people sell to third parties, they're going to get it anyway. They're probably using Databricks inside China. I don't know if you're on any of those sanction lists or anything like that, but this is critical. And I look at it, you know, and then our economic relationship. We have to maintain those two things to keep the world free and safe. And those are the two most important things. And will they have a recession next year? I don't consider that nearly as important. And so, I think we're doing a lot of the right stuff to do that. We should have started years ago. It's unfortunate. But and for you all in the room, we don't have enough welders to build the boats that we need built. We never left, if there was war in the South China Sea, and this is not national security stuff because they published this, they did a tabletop exercise. We have missiles for 7 days. We'll be out of missiles in 7 days.
Wow.
And we don't have, most of us have huge backup capabilities. We have everything backed up that we do, no matter what we do and where we do it. But they would make, I think this is right, making the missiles out of a plant. There was no second plant ready to go. So even if you pushed a button, you're talking about years before you get the second plant. We should not run the military that way. They also, and this has also changed, they have these big programs in the boats and the aircraft carriers, and technology may make, and you see the drone stuff in Ukraine, technology may make aircraft carriers obsolete. And we got to move quickly. So the military usually has to do contracts that be approved. But if you want to buy the best, newest drones, you want to go to Anduril, this company Voyager we took public yesterday, you have to allow the military to buy from you, cancel that, and buy from you, modify that, and like a business would, as opposed to it's got to be like a 20-year contract. So we have a lot to do. We have a thing we're going to do called the Defense Action Forum, kind of laying out all these issues, trying to help the government do a better job with them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, on that topic of the sort of arms race that's going on, when you look around the world, the economy, geopolitics, what worries you the most?
Yeah, it's what I'm about to say is not the ugly American, but America is indispensable. It's not indispensable because we're better. It's indispensable because we have the best military in the world, the most prosperous nation in the world, the best economy in the world, the best technology. The roots of that technology, the freedoms we have. It's what brought people here. And Sweden, right?
Iranian Swede.
Right. My grandparents were Greek immigrants who never went to high school. And we have to maintain that, but America's role is indispensable. That role is economic, it's military, it's education, it's allowing people, people that come here who want to stay here, like more merit-based, which we should be doing. That's the most important thing. And if you made a list of how does America stay indispensable, well, it's basically keeping our domestic economy strong. And here's where we haven't done a particularly good job, and maybe AI will fix. And I have a list. I make a list of all these policies we didn't do well. We don't do mortgage policies well. We didn't do immigration policies well. We don't do affordable housing policies well. We didn't do inner city school education well. We don't teach work skills properly. We didn't do the military properly. Healthcare, I was listening to one of the examples up here. I mean, the average family now costs $30,000 a year for healthcare. America is spending 18 or 19% of its GDP. We have among the best in the world, in which I'm a beneficiary of, the best hospitals, best doctors, best surgeons, best pharma, best medical devices, and among the worst. People are dying younger. There's too much obesity. We don't teach it in K to 12. It lacks transparency, and we got to get at this. And so to me, America should make sure that we're strong. And that strength also comes from celebrating our values and our virtues and not insulting them all the time like we're bad. Yes, we did some terrible stuff, particularly the black community in this country. Absolutely, but the values and the virtues are the best the world's ever seen. People come here to be Americans, and it's the natural thing, freedom of speech and freedom of enterprise and freedom. When they said the pursuit of happiness, the founding fathers, they meant the pursuit of purpose. They didn't mean happiness the way we mean happiness. They meant you're building something. You're accomplishing something. That purpose could be teaching, it could be building, it could be being an entrepreneur, it could be just being a great parent or something like that. And those values and virtues, we've hurt. And right, like I always feel if some of you all played in sports teams, if you have a sports team that's tearing itself apart, it will not win. Yeah, we're kind of doing that a little bit of that today. So I think that's keeping the nations indispensable also means keeping ourselves strong. And
super inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's super inspiring. It's energetic. The best way to accomplish change is to make it happen. If required from you 3.5 years from now, would you run for president?
All right. How many of you would vote for me? I get all the rich white people to vote for me, probably. But I am a banker. I'm 69. I always say I would love to be president, but you'd have to anoint me. You know, I've never run for office. I think this is a skill. Now maybe I can have my my campaign team be one of your agents and tell me what to do, what to say, and where to go. But I've never done that, so I think the answer is no. I will do anything to help the country, though.
Yeah. Okay, well, anything for the country, all right? We'll take that. Okay, so switching back to banking then, I'm very curious. You know, in fact, I was meeting one of the CEOs of one of the big banks here, you know, just a couple of years ago, and he told me like the best thing about our financial system is that the banks are, you know, more robust than they have been ever. It's literally one of the CEOs, one of your, you know, sort of in one of the big banks. And the next day, SVB basically collapsed. And then we had the, you know, First Republic, and which you guys bought, and so on. And you guys are sort of been in the middle of that. You bought, you know, First Republic. You've been advising companies from small, medium to large. I'm curious, what are you seeing? What are you recommending when it comes to this, you know, financial sector?
Yeah. So first, we bought WAMU. I don't know if any of you were WAMU clients, but we're now the largest retail bank in California, the largest private bank in California, the largest commercial bank in California. We've built a whole new campus in Palo Alto with, and we're covering now, we're doing a better job because we didn't realize that the bad job, you always have to be honest with yourself, Silicon Valley did a lot of things well. And now we're learning how to do that, move faster. We've had a campus in Palo Alto. We have 500 bankers doing the innovation economy, which I hope includes a lot of people in this room. And then we have some of our investment bankers here, you know, doing bigger companies, from the biggest to small and stuff like that. And so huge investment, making a huge investment in San Francisco, because, you know, California is, I mean, it's amazing. Every time I come out here, it kind of blows me away. I had a dinner last night with a bunch of CEOs and all the things they're doing. So the financial system is extremely strong. That will never mean that every company is. And you know, the regulations, which I won't bore you with, but what Silicon Valley Bank did in First Republic was irresponsible. I would never allowed it. It was basically interest rate exposure. You know, and so we bought First Republic. We hedged all the interest rate exposure within 2 days.
Wow.
You know, and the hard part of a First Republic is, you know, we had to take 10,000 people literally working on future-looking stuff. And now they have to look at backward-looking stuff. It's consolidating all the systems, HR, finance, tech, databases, you know, customers, legal, you know, all the systems. It's a lot of hard work. We kind of assimilated in a year. We learned a lot from it. There were some very good people there, so you always learn a lot from when you do something like that. But the system is sound. I think what they really should do is, and this people should always do, take a step back, take a deep breath. You know, regulators become like whack-a-mole. We have GSIB and CCAR and SLR and Basel II and Basel III and Basel IV, and it's getting crazy. And the worst part to me is what happened with First Republic and Silicon Valley Bank. It didn't have to happen. So, you know, it's typical. Sometimes you overdo things over here, you miss things over here, and I think we can make the system better, safer, stronger, and more flexible. That should be their goal. And, you know, and then a lot of what they do has all these unintended consequences, which you all read about. You know, mortgages out of the banking system, private credit, leveraged loans, you know, 50% of the, which is fine. I mean, I don't mind competition. Did they intend for that? Like, and I'll give you one bad one. You know, this won't affect you. We've gone from 8,000 public companies to 4,000 over the last 30 years. It should have been 8,000 to 16,000. Going public is expensive, litigious, costly. The reporting requirements are high, cookie cutter boards, you know, cookie cutter compensation, cookie cutter this. So companies avoid it. And is that the right thing? Because I think you'd have a better system, and Sweden does it. One of the benefits by being JP Morgan, you can see the world. They've created a small, you know, think of $1 billion company, $500 million, that can go public, that people want to invest in, that's got sponsored research with less reporting requirements, less costly SEC type of things. And it's caused a vibrant equity business there. And I think we should go back to doing something like that and just make it easier if that's the way you need to raise capital. You know, you guys don't have to do that. Some people don't have to. Some need it, and some want to for a whole bunch of different reasons. But yeah, I think we just make the system better.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. You know, what you don't want 2 banks failed, and the whole world, you know, was going hysterical, breathing over this thing. And I could have told you it was going to happen. And I'm not hysterical at all. You know, and you know, if rates go up, I always tell the regulators, you know, we're prepared for rates going to 8% or something like that. like, or 9%, we'd still be fine. You know, but I've always told them, but you wouldn't be fine. You're not prepared for it. And so I guess it's a risk management thing. We always look at risk management, not guessing the future, but laying out the wide range of possibilities and then studying, can you handle that? And in fact, I know our CFO is looking at one of your guys' things we call stress testing to see how he can use some of your agents to do a better job on certain stress testing. But the Fed has us do one stress test a year. We do 100 a week. I mean, literally, I could care less about their stress tests.
Yeah, so I got to ask you, you know, if you look at the economic outlook right now, you know, what are you seeing? You know, what's going to happen with rates? What's going to happen with inflation?
You know, I have never, and I've gone on Chat 4.0 and asked this question, by the way, so feel free to do it yourself. I mean, no one can answer the question. I do think 20 years from now, 50 years from now, you're going to have a huge cockpit like you have here, huge screens, constantly monitoring what people are doing, what they're spending, what they're growing in bursts and traveling and weather and constantly adjusting the economy to keep it growing at maximum speed. Today, it's not possible. I mean, what we do today is like bleeding the patient. You know, a little stimulus, raise rates, cut rates, and it literally is guessing, you know, and I have never seen people pick the inflection points. But what I'm worried about, and I don't worry, JP will be fine regardless, there are a lot of moving parts today. And there are a lot more unknowns, a lot of things that I call them the tectonic plates are moving. You know, you got these geopolitical situation, you know, Ukraine and Russia, terrorism against Israel, what's going to happen with Iran. And that's not the only ones. There are other ones out there. You got the cyber issues. You have huge global deficits. Ours is the largest, but it's almost everywhere. And government debt is higher than it's ever been everywhere. Even post-war, for post-World War II. And now you have tariffs, you know, kind of a fragmentation of the global military economic situation. You know, a lot of countries are rearming. You know, I think they should, but it's unfortunate. And I'm talking about Japan, Korea, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam. You're going to have a lot of European countries, a lot of moving parts. And it's really hard to tell how that all sorts out. You have the tax bill, which may or might happen. If it happens, there's a lot of stimulus in that bill that happens in the first couple of years. So the world, if you look at the world, it's kind of, and this is my view, I could be dead wrong, it's kind of complacent. You know, prices are high, you know, and we're kind of been this soft landing now for a long time. And there's a general assumption, which is priced in the market, that it'll continue. And I'm a skeptic, you know, and I've been around long enough to know that those things are hard to predict. Does it have to get really bad? No, you know, but could it? Yeah, it could.
So many things could go wrong. Hopefully AI is the thing that sort of is deflationary and can automate things and make it better.
Yeah. But it won't be deflationary yet. I mean, if you look at, like we're spending $2 billion. We actually can, on some of the stuff we're doing, we know we're getting benefit of approximately $2 billion in total on cost saves or productivity enhancements or things like that. But if you look at the amount of money, like even if you haircut, you know, look, the chips are getting faster and cheaper, and there may be optical chips that get better down the road. You know, but power costs aren't going down. The cost of land isn't going down. The cost of structures isn't going down. You know, the cost of inferencing is dropping dramatically, and you guys will find a million ways to reduce costs. But my own view is, in the next couple of years, we're going to be spending a lot more money. You know, like we need more lumber and more cement and more steel and more grids and more gas plants and maybe one day nuclear plants. And so it will be deflationary, just not quite yet.
Okay, all right, so we got to rush through this and get to that inflection point faster then, I guess. Okay, I know we're out of time, but I got to, you know, if I have a great leader, you know, I got to, you know, take the opportunity to ask you, you know, I saw that leaked recording where you said, you know, people got to get back into the office, they're on their phone, it's disrespectful, and, you know, most CEOs, we were like cheering, saying, yes, finally someone is saying the truth. I am curious, you know, any general leadership advice? How do you get your organization to, you said, you know, in every conversation, AI is at the front, you know, we're thinking about it, about everything we're doing. How do you instill that, and how do you build this next generation of leaders, and how do you make sure that they're doing the right thing with the challenges that we have with our ADHD and our phones and work from home?
A constant and honest assessment of everything. So your own people, most people, I've seen these guys, they don't get their P&Ls right, how they structure it right, they bullshit about where they make money. Okay to have lost leaders, But companies, you can call them strategic business units or however you call it. Do you understand what's driving, what's motivating? But the constant assessment is also from the customer standpoint. You're all customers. I need to know what you think, what you like. I go talk to any one of you about if you use Chase, and you might tell me your friend uses HSBC or Chime or Venmo, and they do this better. With constant assessment around the world, I want to send a whole plane load of people in our consumer business to China. That's like 12 years ago. They said, what are we going to China for? I said, you'll find out when you get there. And we hooked them up with Ping An, Tencent, Alipay, Alibaba, and it opens your eyes. You have to do it. When management teams are too busy to come to Silicon Valley, they're not going to be learning. They're sitting in their office, they're hearing what they're hearing. So it's customers, it's assessment, it's talking to your regulators, it's a deep honesty, and that's analytics, detail, repeat, rinse, full assessment all the time. Then you got to have real discipline around that, which is, we have real reviews of businesses but heart and humanity, meaning people don't want to work for jerks, and when you become a senior person, it's amazing, you don't know that much. I have to call, if I want to know about data lakes, and I have to talk to Larry back here and have him explain it to me. If I want to know about FX trading in Indonesia, I got to call an expert in that. And so there's a humility around that about what do they know, how do you know it. They have to be free to speak up. You have to create an environment where people feel treated with trust and respect, and they can contribute to the company to the best of their ability, whatever. They could be white, they could be black, they could be LGBT. We have special programs for disabled, neurologically disabled, veterans, but they're very shy people. You have to go out of your way to get the best of the people, and it's amazing when you do what it does for a country, a university, a company, and you create that environment. You have to, in some ways, in a nice way, you should fire the assholes. It only takes a few of them to destroy a meeting, but I hate to say this, sometimes those assholes include customers. I have fired customers because they are so rude to our people, and I tell our people that if I allow that to happen, just think of what you think, and just take your energy and put it to someone who actually wants your benefits. And so openness, you got to have a little bit of grit. It's hard, these jobs are hard. You have to, answers to problems are waiting to be found. So my general reaction, when something's going wrong, I get all the people in the room, we work it over and over and over and over. I'm not guessing, and usually the answer is found. Yeah. By just working the problem over and over, and promote people who are open like that, who like to get on the road, who like to, deal with people. Review customer complaints. Set up war rooms around them. Let young people. Sometimes I'll just let them do it. just go fix it. And it's amazing what people can do. So it's a wide range of stuff. That return to the office thing. Some people think I leaked it. I didn't. I was trying to. I answered a question honestly about how it was being abused, and misused, and and it's hard to do management by Hollywood squares. Because I can have a real honest conversation with you. I'm sitting in front of you, but when I have 12 people in Hollywood squares, and I didn't realize that people are looking at their phones while they're doing it. I didn't. So the iPad. I still look at paper sometimes, but a lot of people have their iPads in there, and your notifications are coming up, your emails are coming up. You're not paying attention. When you're with me, you get 100% of my attention, 100% of the time, and I've done the whole pre-read every single time, and you're always learning stuff like that. So I think you have to have certain disciplines or you lose, when you have it, and you have it, it's like also the management teams have to work. You can't run a company, you can't run any part of a company and think you can retire in place. When Tom Brady or Simone Biles, you talk to them about their discipline and effort, it's not just the game, it's in practice. It's in reviewing the films. It's in learning new stretches, and if you want to be a winner in this world, you've got to give it your all. And then you can't. There's nothing wrong with you. You shouldn't be the boss anymore.
That's amazing. Super inspirational, Jamie Dimon. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, folks. Good luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Awesome. Wow, that was awesome. All right, so that's almost a wrap. I'm just going to quickly recap what we've said today. But before you go, please come in tomorrow. Lots of still announcements to come. So what did we hear today? Number one, we heard Lakebase as a new architecture, a new way to build databases in the future where you separate the compute and storage. And I think that this is the future of all of our transactional databases, and we have it available in Databricks today. On top of that, we announced Databricks Apps, which is a way in which you can just connect all of your data inside the lakehouse to your apps and democratize that in the organization. We talked about Agent Bricks, which has built-in evals, and we can do the optimization for you, and you get the cost-quality trade-off that you can pick from. And then finally, we were super excited to announce Free Edition of Databricks with a $100 million investment. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the sessions after lunch. Thank you.